boom. Oh. Is this one not going? What are we doing? Oh.
Are we on?
Just a second. Mm-hmm. Yep. All that good dead air for everyone. All right, we're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Political Head Trauma on Friday night, just Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Hope everyone's being safe. And sorry we missed last Friday, but at first it was a work thing that held me up, and then it became a family thing.
Yeah. How's that? You okay with that? Everyone okay?
Yes. Well, aside from she now has to not, go roaming about town by herself.
You going to tell the folks what happened? Or?
Oh, yeah. My grandma fell, hurt herself.
How old is your grandma?
95.
Just had a birthday.
Yep. Her birthday was the end of last month.
She's the most adorable, cutest little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she still goes around. Does she still drive?
No, she never learned how to drive.
Her whole life. Amazing.
She didn't want to. She was like, I don't want to do
I can't imagine that. I can't imagine being a passenger all the time, but I'm kind of a control freak.
But anyway, so she's doing good.
She fell and got hurt that night, and you had to
I went
drop
down
things and go.
Yeah, I ran down there and got her, took her to the hospital.
Poor thing.
Got some x-rays. Broken elbow, dislocated elbow.
Broken arm.
Yeah, broken radius and dislocated elbow. But but she's in a sling. They're not putting her in a cast because I guess the break isn't too bad. But yeah.
Bless her heart. I think she's just the sweetest, and I'm glad you're there for her. You guys are a great family.
Yeah, she's kind of the roots of it all. There's a lot of people running around because of her.
Yeah, I think that's so amazing. The matriarch of a family.
A lot to think about. But anyway, so tonight we've got Senator Scott Sandell coming on. We're excited to chat with him, find out what's going on. Before then, he's coming on at 7, right?
Yes, sir.
Before then, we're gonna just have a little fun chat about
it's not like anything's been going on the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we got UFOs over New Jersey. We've got
UFOs, which sound like jets. If the videos coming out aren't fake.
Yeah.
I mean, they're loud. They don't sound like a drone, but they're also huge.
Well, now we do have, like, our Predator and Reaper drones are huge. They're the bigger than cars. Size? The Reaper,
some reports say that these are school bus size. And the Pentagon was asked if any of this is dangerous, and they said, we don't know what it is, but the American people shouldn't be afraid. And I'm like, if you don't know what it is, how do you know they shouldn't be afraid? And it's got that Chinese weather balloon vibe. And that's a highly populated area of our country in New Jersey. And then now they're starting to see them over Vermont. I don't know. It's just too weird. And you don't know. I think it was Glenn Beck that said, or he's quoted somebody, but I heard him say it, that believe nothing that you hear and only half of what you see. Because with the ability to manipulate video and, CGI. My mic off? Yeah.
That is weird.
CGI and all of that. You don't know if what you're seeing is even real. And on social media and all of that, people are just up in arms about this. And for the Pentagon to say that, I wonder if it's ours, if it's our military stuff, and they know that, and they just don't want the people to know it. But why not? Why not say, yeah, we're running tests over this equipment because we are the greatest military in the world and we have this great equipment, and don't be afraid. This is just testing. I don't know. The COO or CEO of United.
That's a heavy
executed. And then the people are just like, yeah, I get it. You know, that's fine. Everything's fine. It's a clown world.
That one's super. Let me go grab one thing. I'll come back and recount that. But or just tell you my thoughts on it.
Wow, that's a what are you kidding?
I know I gotta grab the testing equipment.
So I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the COO or CEO, excuse me, that was killed by a gunman. The gunman was caught on video. He had a mask on, but the jacket, they say that it was a 3D printer that printed the gun parts. It had a suppressor. Again, we know what happens after something like this. The left comes out, wants to ban ghost guns. It's like never let a crisis go to waste. That's the Democrat Party's mantra. And now there are people that are supporting this gunman. And in New York, there's actually wanted posters hanging up in New York where it said wanted for crimes or something against the, humanity, and the names of the CEOs of other insurance companies. And then this guy's name's on there and crossed out. While another guy was found not guilty in New York for he was defending himself and other people on the subway. Did you see that?
Yes, that's Daniel Penny.
Daniel Penny.
He got found innocent. He was, yeah. They were trying to bring up Bernie Getz on that one. It's an awful deal. It's awful. The left, I think, in their ultimate desire to defend the weak and the poor and the melanated.
This guy wasn't weak or poor.
Well, he was poor. He was homeless.
No.
Schizophrenic.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the United shooter.
Yes, the United shooter was not, but
his family's wealthy.
But yeah, his family owns like a whole bunch of golf courses or something.
I think it's because the guy's not ugly.
No,
and the case is too perfect.
I think even before they found out what he looked like, people were supporting him
because of the CEO being part of the United Healthcare.
Right now, few things are hated more than our insurance system.
Congress.
No, insurance, I think, rates lower than Congress.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, people like roaches more than they like Congress.
Yeah. Imagine but the insurance companies, our insurance system is screwed up. And
absolutely.
It's screwed up because of the government's involvement.
The government regulation and Medicare, Medicaid, and there's a lot of crime that happens, fraud that happens. The government's getting defrauded by certain people. I think everybody deserves health care. I can say that without feeling bad, but I think just like everybody's required to have insurance on their car, on their homes, on their loans, and on their assets. I mean, you can buy life insurance, you can buy car insurance nationwide, but you can't buy health insurance nationwide. There's no competition, which makes them a monopoly in their areas. And I mean, yes, we need reform badly, but you got to cut the restriction and let there be a free market where they can compete. Because once competition goes in there, prices will drop. And under Trump, he did say that hospitals need to advertise what their surgeries cost, and it shouldn't be on a scale. And insurance companies are getting ripped off every day, and they know it. And that's why they deny most claims. And hospitals are getting ripped off from people not paying, for their Medicare or whatever, Medicaid. It's a mess. And when it comes to, if you're somebody that cannot afford a procedure, or someone you love is sick and they can't afford a procedure, I cannot imagine the mindset you would be in. Now, the fact that this guy had back pain, and they're trying to say that he wasn't even a member of United Healthcare. That came out today. Neither was his mother.
Okay.
This reminds me a little bit Timothy McVeigh. Everything
Like
is
it's a
so
setup.
perfect.
Well, and
He's
okay.
carrying around his manifesto. He's got the gun that he would have 3D printed to make it so it's non-traceable, but he's carrying it around with him. He could have just left it at the scene. He goes to a McDonald's, doesn't change his jacket, nothing. Takes his mask down to wink at some. Like, this is just a clown world, folks. And then you've got all these people trying to make him a celebrity. Like why is it we celebrate douchebags in this country? Because I don't care how you feel about insurance CEOs. No one deserves to be executed on the streets. Not even bad guys.
I agree.
That's
I'm
vigilantism.
concerned that vigilantism, if something like this carries on, will become the name of the game. And right now, if you're on the left and you're thinking, oh, well, we'll rein in these healthcare companies this way.
Yeah, I don't see how that's going to work.
But think there's something that you support that the other side might want to rein in. Like, think about doctors that perform a certain little operation that the right may not like
murdering a baby.
What if they start doing things? So is that where we want to be? And then if that's where you want to be, that's fine. Then you guys better all start worshiping the Second Amendment like me.
Wait a minute, though. I mean, let's say now CEOs of healthcare industry are running or requiring security 24 hours and they're worried for their families and they're living in fear. Is that going to enact change that's going to help people? It sounds to me like it's going to be a lot more money.
I don't know.
When you have to have a 24-hour security personnel watching after your CEO, I think they're going to get their money back somehow.
I don't know.
Ty says Trump said he'll work with Republicans to finally eliminate daylight savings time today on Truth. What's your take? I want to spring and stay ahead.
That one I love.
I don't understand why it's still a thing, and I don't understand why people are fighting for it.
Who's got to be fighting to keep it?
I don't understand.
Somebody's got to be crazy.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like in the fall when we go back an hour and you get that extra hour.
Sure, but then you got to eat the punishment.
I think it's physically damaging to the human body. They've got many a study on that the spring ahead is especially dangerous for people. It's high stress on the body. They lose an hour, it makes them tired. I mean, whatever it is. But this was done for farmers, correct?
I think so. I mean, that's what I've always heard.
Yeah. Well, I think now that we don't have to depend on the sun and the hours that they're suggesting, I think it's just crazy. I'm just surprised it's still a thing. I mean, it hasn't been a thing in Arizona, and they've been
did Arizona get rid of it?
Since college, I know that I was in college and they didn't have daylight savings in Arizona.
That's a genius move. Good job, Arizona.
But they're Arizona. It's sunny and warm all the time, and I don't know about their farms. Do they? Yeah. I mean, are there farms in Arizona?
Well, yeah, that's where you get your hatch chilies from.
I don't know anything about that.
The chilies you buy in the markets that they roast every fall?
I don't know what. Chilies?
Chilies.
Like the red ones? The
big
green
chili
ones?
rellenos, yeah.
I always assumed those were grown in California.
No, they come from Hatch.
Huh.
Hatch, Arizona. Or Hatch, New Mexico.
How do you know that?
Because I used to drive through there all the time when I went down to visit my brother.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. And also my neighbor goes and gets them every year.
Okay. So, hi, Christy. Thanks, Ty. I was curious what you thought. I mean,
that would be awesome if they did away with that. Just simplify it. We know what time it is. It's that time everywhere, all the time.
I just don't understand why it's an argument. What are they gaining with it? I don't understand. Why keep it?
What if there is just one like Dr. Evil who fights for it every year.
I don't get it. I know it's been in our house before on the Capitol, and it's been on the docket, and it didn't pass.
It didn't pass, or it just didn't even get brought forward because
No, because our rep from a long time ago, 12 years ago, she was actually running the bill, and I don't think it passed.
who voted against it?
It was Rhonda Menlove that was running the bill. Do you remember her? Rhonda Menlove, I think is her name.
Oh,
She was amazing.
I don't remember her.
So interesting.
But yeah,
interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Daniel Penny case.
Yes.
So I've got lots of thoughts on this. It's weird how they went through the charges. So the young man's name was Jordan Neely, that he held down, and Jordan Neely subsequently died.
Explain what was happening though in the subway.
They're on the subway. Daniel Penny's heading to college course, and
Daniel's a veteran, correct?
Yeah, he's a Marine vet, and he's heading to school, college course, whatever. Jordan Neely, and I'm just laying this out not to disparage him because we don't need to, but his record does it for him. He's been arrested 47 times.
Schizophrenic,
drug addict, and he gets let go early. Alvin Bragg tries doing his justice, whatever they call it.
In New York, they were letting criminals out of jail, and they called them nonviolent criminals, and they weren't looking at the plea bargain deals.
He had been in there for multiple assaults, and so they sent him. He was serving a term in actual prison, and they let him out to what they call a resident house. It's a halfway house, a resident halfway house, where he has to submit to drug screenings and everything else. And then he just ran away from there. And this was all within a 3 or 4 month period. And within that 3 or 4 months, he had tried kidnapping a child. He had punched an elderly woman in the face trying to rob her.
Orbital.
Yeah. And
phone.
so
is that what it's called?
Yes. And when the police would nab him up, the police weren't searching for warrants because he did have a warrant out for him. It's called the orbital socket.
Thank you.
And so he got on the subway train, and he's, screaming, I want food. I don't care if I die, whatever. And
he's yelling in people's faces.
And he's lunging at people.
And scaring.
Lunging at women with children, apparently, the reports go. And so Jordan Neely is acting very menacing, is how they put it. And Daniel Penny came up behind him, got him into a chokehold and pulled him back and took him down. And
told him to settle down.
A Mexican guy, a Hispanic guy came in and grabbed him, held his arms. And then a black guy came in and held his legs.
Basically, they were trying to protect the people on the train from this guy that was acting crazy.
Until the police came. Anyways, and everyone on the train's thankful for it, and everything's good to go, including the African-American.
This
ladies.
Man is the guy that died. He was African-American, correct?
Yes.
And a lot of the witnesses were as well. Witnesses that testified
for Daniel
Penny. Yes. They said they felt like he was protecting them.
Even when the prosecution called them, they testified for him. It's hilarious. But anyways, so Alvin Bragg is
terrible,
racist POS, and he wants to come down hard on him. There was another case in New York, not but 2 months earlier, where a young black man stabbed a guy that was menacing him, and Alvin Bragg brought no charges. Now, granted, it wasn't in Alvin Bragg's district. I don't think Alvin Bragg's in Manhattan. This was in Queens, if I remember. Anyways, fast forward, Alvin Bragg brings him up on charges, but
brings up Daniel Penny.
Yes, brings up Daniel Penny.
Because this man during the chokehold died.
but doesn't bring up no, he didn't die during the chokehold. Doesn't bring up the Hispanic man or the black man who aided
but
him.
how did he die then?
He was still alive when the police showed up.
Right, but because of the chokehold, they're saying.
I would say because of the drugs.
Well, that we could say that about George Floyd too.
Yes.
But what was Alan Bragg saying?
Alvin Bragg
was the chokehold that killed
says
him.
it was the chokehold, but he didn't try going for murder one. He tried going for
manslaughter.
And it's just weird. The court case went awry. They tried dropping the manslaughter for a negligent homicide charge.
They tried to get him to plea.
Well, they did try to get him to plea. And so it's egg on the face. And now Daniel Penny's. Anyway, so in the court, it came out that police body cam showed up. Jordan Neely was still alive. And the police, now, I don't know if you've been through CPR lately, but last time I went through, they no longer do respiratory aid. They don't do the breathing anymore. Now it's just chest compressions.
And you can do it with your foot too.
Well,
and do you know what else they don't do? They don't let you do it because they don't want to train people how to do it. They call it an exemplary, like in some of the states, because they don't want, there's so many people, the Good Samaritan laws, that are scared to be Good Samaritans because they don't want to get sued if they accidentally kill somebody.
Yeah.
Trying to give them CPR. And there's people not willing to do it. And the Red Cross doesn't want to be responsible for someone given CPR wrong after training with them. So they just do an observatory where you get to watch someone give CPR, but they don't actually teach you or give you a certification.
I went through a trauma first aid course last year. You can find them if you look for them. You can find them around. Usually they're pretty good courses, usually given by a ex-Army or Navy medic. And mine was given by an Army medic, and I'd been through one 4 years ago with the Marine medic, and we covered CPR in it, but it's small. Mostly it's covering bullet wounds.
I did a CPR course with my sister-in-law for babies. We went and did a whole course to learn how to do.
That's got to be an intense one.
Yeah,
that's got, especially
CPR
if you've got babies,
and then Heimlich, things like that. My sister-in-law, she was a first-time mom and wanted to make sure she was already. And I had done it before. I think like gun training, it's helpful to know.
Oh, I've been.
And I drowned in a swimming pool 20 years ago, and my husband did CPR on me and brought me back. I mean, I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lifesaver.
It's painful to be the one on the receiving end.
Up in, I think it's
done
Washington, right? To get your driver's license, you have to go through a CPR course.
Really?
Yes. And from what I've heard is it's made roadside deaths go down. I think everyone should.
Why not teach it in high school?
Get a CPR course. I learned it in the Boy Scouts before I even got into high school. It's the first time I took it. Everyone should carry a first aid kit with a tourniquet. Learn how to use a tourniquet. Tourniquets save lives. Obviously, if it's a head wound, tourniquet will not save a life.
Don't put it around your.
But tourniquets, everyone should pursue those.
Would a belt be enough?
Tourniquets are easier to use, better, more secure. Trust me.
What does a tourniquet look like? Can it just be the rubber band, that
you buy
rubber
tourniquets
hose they use on you when they're giving you a shot or doing an IV?
Got one up behind us. No, tourniquets are more substantial than that. I had one in here somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's important, but so this guy, Alan Bragg, is a problem. And if you've watched The Mayor of New York lately, you're watching him in real time turn on the party.
Adams is.
But they also went after him, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Adams. Anyways, I've got tourniquet in the other room.
That's okay.
I've got 2 in my gun kit. I've got 2 in my truck, and I've got a trauma first aid kit. I'll just pursue these things, get these things. They're important to have. I mean, a tourniquet, imagine if you're if your child gets a compound fracture, falling out of a tree, and you're waiting for the first aid to show up, you're not setting a bone, you're not pulling a bone in, but a tourniquet, he will not lose his leg. You've got hours with the tourniquet on before it has any substantial loss.
And with a bone break in a leg or something, the potential of ripping open an artery
Seriously.
could be
Seriously.
huge.
So get out, learn it, seek it out. The guy who taught me, he left, moved back to Vermont. As soon as I find a new one, I'll advertise it in here. I've been looking around. But anyways, back to the thing. So the police showed up and they've got it on camera. He's still alive. And they mention on there, he's dirty. We don't want to touch him.
Which is fair. He's a homeless man.
Seriously. And police, when I was on duty, I used to carry a breathing apparatus on my belt. And what it was, you had a couple different kinds. You've seen the bag that the doctors use, but mine had one mouthpiece and another mouthpiece, and then it had a tube through it.
Like a hose.
And the tube had a baffle in it so that you didn't get backflush. Because one time I gave CPR to a guy on the side of the road, and I was new at it, and I was not very good at it. And I blew a breath into his stomach, and the breath came back out into my face.
Oh my gosh. So you're trying to kiss this guy. Did you save him?
No, he was not savable. And he puked in my mouth is what he did.
Yeah, law enforcement carries those kits.
It was tough, yes. And I did that when I was in law enforcement. I carried one. So you guys should, you can get those. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy tourniquets on Amazon.
I would like to say that
By
the
Israeli
police
bandages.
saying that he didn't smell well. And yes, I don't want to imply that just because someone's homeless, they smell terrible. But this guy had left the housing facility and the halfway house that he was at and was literally living on the streets.
Well, not just that, but he was addicted. So he's using the drugs. So the smell of the drugs and the chemicals are coming out of him. And this is not to say I think that Jordan Neely should have succumbed to the end he succumbed to. But this is to say that the state of New York and the city of New York and the city of Manhattan let him down and let him get to that point. But so to go on, it's weird how they only charged the white guy.
Yeah.
And they left the minorities alone. And that was an interesting part of it.
And even after the witness statements that
Yes.
the police got,
Yes.
I mean, why did they charge him? I mean, police, from what I understand, the police understood and thought this was kind of open and shut. Alan Bragg is the one who wants to push charges and
Yes.
make a name for himself. And this is the problem we have in our legal system, that it's a clown world, you guys. It's crazy to
Yes.
push this, and it's happening all the time, and it's been happening all the time, and just it's like George Floyd all over again, when they just hang on to something. Did they have riots in New York or threats of riots?
Okay, there was some marches.
Turned it into
but
a race
it
case.
didn't get big. Now, this is where I wanted to go next. Is this the death of the BLM grift? Because BLM came out and talked, the lady that's the head of Greater BLM New York, or BLM Greater New York, whatever her name is, and some guy that's and he's calling, we need vigilantes against them.
Yeah,
and
rise up.
I want to ask BLM, where are you guys when it matters?
Right.
So is BLM just that hurting for money that they're going to dive on any grenade? Or
Would they have fought if Alan Bragg charged the black guy?
I don't
Would they
know.
have said a word?
No. Or if Daniel Penny had been black, or if Jordan Neely had been white.
Daniel Penny is actually getting so much. He's getting threats.
He's also getting
fairly
praised.
tried.
There were $3 million raised.
Yeah, he should get out of town.
Oh, he needs to leave.
He needs to get out of New York, because
you know what? Everyone needs to leave New York.
Yeah, not everyone.
Just
let
leave
the
New
people
York.
who are like lefties, let them stay there. But if you're a righty and you like your gun rights and everything else, get out of that city.
Well, you would have already left. But that is the ultimate expression in a low trust society. That place is dying on the vine.
I want Daniel Pennies all over. I want to know that if someone's harassing me on a train, there is somebody who
Yeah.
is willing to stand up for the innocent folks. And honestly, guys, like he punched a woman so hard in the face, it broke the bones in her face, an elderly woman.
Yeah.
He was intimidating people on the platform. I would not want to be on a platform in New York City with somebody who is that mentally ill and is terrifying. It's one shove and you're dead. And it's happened multiple times. And let's look at this. The United States has a problem. I don't know if we need to bring back mental institutions.
Yeah.
But
we do.
We have such a mental illness problem in this country, and people need help.
The drug problem, that's all. And I mean, you've got to track down when we did away with mental institutions. That was at the time Senator JFK, John F. Kennedy.
Really? I thought it was later under like Reagan.
No, it came to fruition under Reagan. It was put in under Kennedy.
There was so many problems with mental institutions, and I get that.
The problems came about after
some sort of reform, because this is not working.
Me and my sister did a show on that where we explored that mental institution thing. So that bill came in, it was in like 59, right?
No kidding.
And then from that point, they started defunding them slowly. So first it went from federal to state.
Why though?
And then the feds quit supporting, because JFK had an older sister or younger sister, Rose.
She was lobotomized.
Yes, and put in an institution, and JFK didn't like him, and there was a doctor who didn't like him, bleeding heart, you know. They both thought they were doing good things.
Reform them or demand
they didn't
better.
like the non-voluntary part of them.
Okay, and this is where I'm always caught up, because I want somebody to have freedom first, but when they've been arrested 47 times,
yes,
that is a problem. And when they are not taking medication that could make them functional members of society and actually a danger, eventually your freedom is dangerous.
Yeah, what's the other option in the end of that? I mean, the other option is you go with the Luigi part of it, sadly.
Yeah, or you're in prison for life. And even then, people with mental disorder, they don't need prison all the time. Sometimes they just need monitored
and it's
care.
The drug use. The drug use causes people who could probably live a normal life.
Yeah.
It causes their schizophrenia to surface. I went to school with a guy, not going to say his name. Those of you who know me know who it is. And he fell hard into, started with just marijuana, but he rode the track all the way down, and now he is he's a schizophrenic you can't even help, and he's been caught so many times. I don't know if assaulting is the word to use, or menacing to assault, or
that's the scary thing, is not knowing
but
what
there's been a few times
of.
Where he has definitely done what I would call an assault on a woman. And he finally got hauled away the last time. And so I don't know, had he been able to stay away from the drugs, he probably would have never crossed over those bounds.
And I've seen studies coming out that actually say people who smoke marijuana before their brain is developed have a higher chance of developing a mental illness like schizophrenia. And that is the first I've ever heard of anything like that.
And so, yes, you don't want to use marijuana when you're young. And also, if you are on that border, if you have,
it's in your family.
Yes, you don't want to use any drugs, any at all. You probably don't even want to drink.
Yeah. I mean, we're still learning so much every day about the brain. I mean,
and maybe one day we'll come up with an actual cure.
I remember amazing.
I asked him once, he would get on the medication and he hated it. He'd get depressed and whatever. And this was before he slipped into the real scary side. He was just touching it. And I said, why do you hate him so much? Why are you depressed? Because he was on him. He came over. He was friends with a friend. I mean, grew up in high school and we were friends, but him and this person they were real tight. And he said, well, I hear voices. And I says, well, what's it like when you're on the medication they give you? And he says, I still hear the voices, but they're in the other room.
So they're quieter.
Yes. And I was like, oh.
Some people hear things like that. They get on the medication and they stop hearing them. And they think they're better, so they get off the medication.
That hit me heavy when he said that.
Yeah, I mean, that's terrifying.
That hit me real heavy. And then, but yeah, and I don't know, a lot of stuff going on. I talked with someone yesterday who is not a Trump supporter, but she believes that they are not going to let Trump become president.
Yeah, a lot of people are speculating on that.
She's probably lightly hoping that, but
how can they do that? I mean, the only unless someone hurts him.
That's how.
But then JD Vance would become the president, and if they tried to deny the office to him under what grounds? He won in a mandate.
We're just in
by the American
land.
People.
Just welcome to cuckoo land.
You saw I got to be Time Magazine's Person of the Year.
Oh, Caitlin Clark, right?
No, Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald Trump got
yeah,
you.
This is
no. Really?
Yep, he got the Person of the Year, and this is his fourth cover with Time Magazine.
But this is his first Person of the Year, and this is first.
No, I think it's his second. I think he got it in 2016 also.
Did he really?
Yeah. And he actually opened the stock market today to, what do they call that? Stock exchange.
Yeah.
And he thanked Time Magazine today, and he had his whole entourage with him.
The worm is turning, maybe.
I would like to get Celeste on again and talk about the $900 billion they're giving to the Defense Department, all chosen prior to Trump taking office. I don't think Trump is going to be scrimping on the military. I don't think that at all, nor do I think he should.
Congress vote on it?
Yeah.
Then I think it should go through, because that is Congress's purview.
Absolutely.
That is not the president. I don't think should be able to say yay or nay on that. I think he should be able to veto a bill if there's something, but he's not the president right now. So
it's the purse, and that's their job.
If Congress voted on it, let them. And here's the thing, Celeste, love you dearly, humana. But we need an official record of every time a congressperson votes and how they vote. And I think
you have it. It's on. You can find it online.
Not one bill should ever pass unless they have a, what do you think, 3/4 quorum?
Like a super majority?
Not a super majority. I think they shouldn't even be able to vote on a bill unless they have a 3/4 quorum there in person.
2/3?
Yep. Well, no, 3/4. I think they should have, that should be, they can vote yay or nay, but they have to have that many Congress people there.
I don't see a problem with that. I
mean, and if they're, because let's think of all of the fun stuff we got without that, like the Federal Reserve Act.
Vote because they can be like, oh, sorry, I wasn't there to vote. Oh, really? On something so controversial? Sorry.
Why was Thomas Massey so hated? Why did Trump come after Thomas Massey during COVID?
Because he didn't vote.
Because he forced the floor vote.
Yeah.
He forced the vote to be known. And even Trump come out and chewed him out.
I think that Trump is going to rebuild the military like he did after Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he's going to cut off Ukraine, because if you've seen how much money is going to Ukraine in the last couple of weeks, they've had 3 different bills sending Ukraine billions with a B over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're going to try to get every dime to Ukraine before January 20. And this is a crime. Oh, and how about the blanket pardon suggestion where he would pardon Fauci and possibly Pelosi?
That would be just an admittance of guilt.
Even Hillary Clinton is vying for one.
That would just be an admittance of guilt. That's all that is.
Dr. Fauci should have to stand for what he's done to the people. And a president that would give a predetermined pardon so that like his son can't be charged with any crimes from 2014 to present. Are you out of here? How is this legal?
I love it. Just a blanket.
Here's a get out of jail free card.
Not a pardon for a thing, just a blanket pardon.
That's insane.
I want to pardon Hunter from the time when he started trafficking young ladies and going to Ukraine to when tomorrow.
But I'm not going to pardon anyone from January 6th because we were in the right.
Here's the question. What do you think? Do you think this opens up Trump so Trump
Absolutely. Trump's already
can
said
just
he
do
will.
it? Okay.
But will Joe Biden pardon himself? Because
that's a big one. I don't know if presidents can. That would be something that's never been done before.
Are we sure it's never been done?
Never been done. Ford pardoned Nixon.
Can I tell you a little bit more about the speech Trump gave today at the stock exchange?
Sure.
He talked about the corporate tax rate going to 15% to businesses that are in this country.
Love it.
And 24% outside business corporate tax rate, encouraging them to come to the United States and get 15%.
Now, hold on. Is that blanket business or is it like the company I work for is international? They're in every country except probably one.
But wherever they have to pay taxes, if they're here, they got their manufacturing or whatever, their business is here and they've got jobs here. I think that's what he's saying.
Essentially,
United States corporate tax rate.
They're initially from Minnesota, but they're everywhere. They've got.
I've said it before. I think it should be zero. I think there should be no federal tax, corporate tax rate. It only gets taken out from the people. It only gets taken out from employees. And if you had 0%, every business in the world would be here in this country. So he's going to do that. That made me happy. 15% is great. That's going to get the economy going. It's going to get manufacturing back here in America. It's going to get corporations back here. And it'll once again be, that's what happened last time.
It'll be a good economic thing. I think we need to redo all of our tax structure. We need to do away with Citizens United and also make it so corporations don't pay a tax because corporations aren't a person. I would have the state the corporation is operating in. If they're going to levy a tax, they levy a tax. There's no federal levying of taxes of corporations. And that way the state can see if they need to throttle or moderate growth. I would also make it so that only people pay taxes. So you get those United Healthcare CEOs that are making $10 million a year off telling sick people no. Maybe they'll start saying it'll be cheaper for me to make $2 million a year and tell more people yes, because otherwise the tax rate will get a little heavy. And you know what? Maybe we go back to
with the ability
Eisenhower's
to write
tax
off
rates
and use the tax law as it is. That people get so angry that billionaires don't pay as many taxes as millionaires and other people. The truth is, those billionaires and their government officials write the tax law for the way they do it on purpose, folks. So if we want the taxes or people to pay more, they got to change the tax law. And why not a flat tax? Why don't you use taxes or pay for what you use rather than you and I don't understand the tax law. Why not? Why not just simplify it? It's a straight 10%. It's good enough for God. It's good enough for the federal government. And everybody pays it.
We'll call it a tithing, state tithing. Well, and honestly, I don't think there should be federal taxes at all. Taxes should be levied from the states federally, and the states should levy the taxes to the people.
Trump can pardon himself.
He can? See, that's a big question.
And so can Biden. But there's people that say it would be disastrous. It doesn't look good. I mean, he could pardon himself on his way out the door.
You're guilty.
Or it's saying if he gave himself the same pardon he gave Joe or that Biden gave his son, imagine that they can't prosecute him after
It's just saying you're guilty. That's all it's saying.
Or maybe you're tired because he has spent so much money, so many months, so much stuff in court for bullshit charges. And I think the American people would be like, you know what? Biden just set the stage, and especially if he does a blanket pardon on someone like Dr. Fauci, because they're trying to set the stage that Trump's DOJ is going to be in it for revenge. And I think they're going to be too busy for revenge. I mean, the FBI director just surrendered his position.
Yeah, Christopher Wray.
And I think that we're going to have a new FBI. I hope we do. And I hope that the regular day-to-day FBI agent isn't damaged in any way, but I think we have to clean house on the administration. And I think that Kash Patel is going to be pretty good. And I think Trump's nominees are all going to get pushed through eventually because
I like Kash Patel. But then again, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
I'm just learning about him. Trying to learn about all the nominees.
I've learned about him quite a bit over the last year. Just by watching podcasts. And I know he wrote a book. I should have read it, but I didn't. I'm still gearing up to work my way through Tragedy and Hope.
Sounds.
Carol Quigley.
What about the guy that Hegsworth? What's his name?
Talking Hegseth?
Hegseth.
Yeah, I don't know much about him.
I mean, he's a veteran. He served 2 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan.
Harvard.
Bronze Star.
Yeah.
Harvard and Princeton, I think.
Something like that. I don't know.
But I mean,
I hate to say it, but the Harvard and Princeton part kind of scared me.
But he's been accused of improprieties with women, abuse of women, of course. I say of course because it just seems to be the thing now.
It's a playbook.
You know, 6 years ago during this time, Judge Kavanaugh was going through that.
Yeah.
Remember? And it was such a obscene thing that woman is accusing him from 30 years prior. And it just comes out of the woodwork. And I'm sorry, but the press has just lost all credibility. And what's really interesting too, on that note, is people were doing a poll of Gen Z regarding where they get their press, where they get their media. Guess where they're not getting it?
Not from any of the mainstream or corporate media.
And they're saying, we don't believe them. We just don't believe the media. And so we've raised kids who are at least considering that your government is lying to you. Whereas we were raised that Tom Brokaw was a good guy, and what he told you, you could take to the bank. It was trusted, reliable, and I mean, of course, after everything that happened with Nixon and all of that, I don't think, and then with what happened with JFK and that, I'm shocked that we weren't raised with parents saying, "Do not trust this government." But I think that my parents were like, question with boldness. Always wonder and look into it and don't take anyone's word for it. I just we're raising a generation of kids who are saying, nope.
I know I raised a now 30-year-old who doesn't trust the government. But that's because I'm a crazy person who did that.
So we might have a couple minutes for Scott to come on a little bit late.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But, I don't know. It's interesting times. We'll have to see what happens with Trump getting in there, how the transition is. It seems, man, I can't help but feel like Biden's been awful friendly to Trump. Jill's been friendly to Trump.
I think
Dr. Jill.
I think Biden is pissed. I think he's pissed at his party. He's pissed at the
he doesn't like
leadership.
Kamala.
They screwed him. They literally destroyed him. And Jill, I think she's been really delighted being around Trump. At least she acts like it, both in France and in DC. And Biden got screwed. And I think he was set up. Remember, we talked about it before the debate. I said, this is the first time they've done a debate this early.
Yep.
And they made the rules, which only benefited Trump, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mute his mic.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like he's going after an old man.
Yep.
No notes. That only benefited Trump. They knew Biden couldn't do it.
Well, the media set up to Biden to fail on that too. Everyone
Absolutely.
Did.
This is what I'm saying.
And then
like
the media wanted Kamala, and she just couldn't pull it off. But anyways, I don't know. We got a few minutes before the Senator Sandal comes on. So if you guys got anything you want to chat about or anything you're thinking here in Utah, maybe interesting stuff, pop it in there. I saw a report that there were some lights seen over Salt Lake City a week and a half ago.
what kind of lights?
Well, you know what people call them, UFOs, but I don't know, maybe.
Well, a UFO is anything that's unidentified flying over Salt Lake City.
That's
but
right.
With us having the Air Force Base and we've got a lot of military installations, I don't think that unidentified flying objects is ever a good idea.
Have you
ever seen someone fly a drone over Area 51?
No.
They try to go over that fence. The second they're over the fence, shot down. Not the second, but a few seconds later.
I've been to the gate of Area 51. I went there during that raid, Area 51.
Yeah, didn't you and Dave do a show from there?
No, me and Betsy did.
Oh, awesome.
This is my UFO guy. I'm seeing if he sent me something about it. I thought he did, but it might have been on text. But yeah.
Guys, we're living in a crazy time. I mean, they came out during COVID and said, yeah, aliens are real. And yet nobody batted an eye. Nobody went, holy, what did you guys just confirm? It went in with the Friday news and then it's been quiet ever since.
Right now, it's the underwater aliens that are the big story.
That actually makes sense to me. We know less about our oceans than we do about space.
Because it's easier to explore space.
Guys, this is crazy. It would make sense that an alien species could live underwater.
Maybe the Anunnaki are coming back.
I don't know what that is.
I know you don't.
Do you want to elaborate?
The Anunnaki, it's Zechariah Sitchin's book that he supposedly transcribed what the heck is that ancient civilization? Not Syrian,
Mayan?
Someone help me out. No, it's in the Middle East, the Crescent, the first civilization. But anyways, he transcribed their text and it told the story of the Anunnaki making us from monkeys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they an alien species?
Yes, an alien species from the planet Nibiru, which is in our solar system just out past Pluto.
Okay.
But
so we've died and
elliptical-
we've come back because, or I imagine they have technology that's beyond anyone's imagination.
Well, they came here to mine gold. It's a planet that's on an elliptical course. This show's derailing fast, folks. It's a planet that's on an elliptical course.
This is so funny.
Nibiru, and it goes out past Pluto.
So
but
someone's a good author and made a story.
Oh yeah. Well, the story's okay. And every 20,000 years or something, it comes in and comes between us and Mars.
20,000 years?
Yeah. Its orbit is that far. And,
sorry, guys. That's loud.
Yeah. And so anyway, so when they come in, they discover a planet with gold on it, and they want to put gold in their atmosphere because they've depleted their planet. Their atmosphere is crap. And so they
I thought Scientology was weird.
They come here and start doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if some people honestly believe this story. Like they think they're coming back and they're like here.
You know what? I wouldn't. The universe, space is infinite. And every star you see is a sun, essentially.
Or 1,000 suns. Like,
And those stars are vast and far away. And I don't think the human brain can actually get their mind around infinite space. So every star could have a planet like ours in its
Or
orbit, in its solar
multiple.
system. Yeah. So to say there would be no life out there would be
be a bold statement.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
And we didn't know this when we were kids, I don't think. It wasn't
Didn't know what.
the fact that every star was its own
Yeah,
sun.
we knew that.
I don't recall thinking that every sun in every star in the sky could be just like our solar system.
Oh, I was quite the space nerd growing up,
I
so
loved
I knew
space. I loved.
I knew that it was either stars or nebulas or whole solar systems or whole even galaxies. The stars in the sky aren't just suns. I mean, some of them, like you got the Crab Nebula, which is a birthplace of suns. And suns are born there and then thrown out into space.
So the show Contact, remember that movie?
I do.
How the movie starts, where it starts like on Earth and goes back and gets out of our solar system. I thought that was so cool because that was a way to describe just the mass of space. And I mean, yeah, we are crashing and burning here as far as keeping you guys on the train. Yes. But this is what happens when we miss
Percival's
a week.
Here. Percival's here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, like Jewish space lasers. Tell me more. What are these space lasers you speak of? And what do they do?
Hey, Percival, we missed you.
We missed you. Yes.
Welcome back.
Yes.
But I think it's interesting. The history, the people that, nowadays you have to not believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
Well, okay. Zachariah Sitchin wrote this book. I think he wrote it in the 60s. He was actually a biblical student from Hungary?
Like theology?
Or Denmark. Yeah. Yeah. He was studying that. And then he went down to Sumer. And did the guy your mom asked, did the guy on the train have a gun threatening the people? No, he did not. He was just a tall guy.
He was just acting erratic and getting in their face and
lunging at them.
And it's a tight space and it was making multiple people afraid.
Yeah.
And these people had no idea if he was dangerous or not. But no, in New York, it's really hard to have a gun. Anyway, but he was a felon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was homeless.
Uh-huh.
So
drug addict. And he came on, he was threatening, that he would kill someone. He's not afraid to go to jail, is it? The words he was saying while he's lunging at people. And that's not to say that we are happy about what happened to him.
No, of course
not.
But
we are happy that
he didn't hurt anybody.
That we didn't, that Alvin Bragg did not score a scapegoat. You know where scapegoats come from, right? The phrase, what it used to be.
What?
Ancient Semitic people used to, when they started having problems in a village, they would have a ceremony where they would put all of their sins on a goat. And then they would kill that goat.
Okay.
Scapegoat. And they thought that they were being punished by the gods or God, depending on which village it came from. And that's what Alvin Bragg was looking for, was a scapegoat. But it will be nice to see if, I think Black Lives Matter has a window right now where, like the Democrats, they need to go back and reflect and say, what are we doing? Now's the time that we go into Chicago and we start preaching to the areas where the youths are dying at crazy numbers and innocence.
Black on black crime.
And we go in there and we start saying, look, it's up to us. And we start taking ownership of our communities and teach them ownership. Go in there and teach them small business. Go in there and set up things like that.
Like father figure
Dude,
and
seriously.
recreation and
Seriously.
hope.
Or even
These
just
kids need hope and time and attention.
yeah, go in and clean a park.
Give them
Just
pride in their neighborhoods.
yeah.
Get the abortion clinics and the liquor stores and the drug dens out of these neighborhoods. And I mean, watch them thrive. But it takes the men. It takes the men in a community to do something like that for our youth. I believe
right.
that. Really believe that.
You're right. Well, it takes both the men and the women. One, the men have to stick around. Two, the women have to be selective about who they make children with, and then
Oh, sure.
demand that the man sticks around.
But I'm saying if you're going to be in a community and try to make change, if men are the influence where they're guiding children who don't have fathers, girls and boys, being respectful and kind and teaching a young man how to earn a living, or faith if they have a religious feeling, or how to be a gentleman, or at least how to fix a tire, whatever it is.
Well, not just that, but the daughters learn
example.
what to demand from a man.
Yes.
From their father.
And a lot of women are raising kids by themselves, and like you said, encouraging men to step up and be dads,
and encourage women not to allow men into their sacred garden if he's not someone who's going to meet that criteria.
Well, and this is a society culture problem. This is years and years of culture degeneration, in my opinion, where it's been focused more on your needs now, and feminism in the sense that I'm a woman and I should be able to be exactly like a man and have undeniable pleasure whenever I want it, and yet not take any accountability if I do make a child. Or you know what, we're just living in a culture that is just poison.
I want to, before Scott Sandel comes on, I want to chat for a second. So I was listening to this guy who was talking about different seculums, and he was talking about how it seems like every 100 years, and he's tracked this, that you have a death of religion from the turn of the century through about the 25th year of the century. And then you have chaos that reigns from that. Now, I'm not a religious person.
No kidding.
And then you have chaos that reigns after that. And then you have a revival in the 40th year of the century. And he says it happened in the 1800s. It happened in the 1700s. He says towards the end, you always have this.
People return to
this secondary growth that comes from it. It's interesting to think that might be the case. All right, the good senator's here now. Let's see if he can bring his camera on and if we can hear him. And
okay. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you,
but we don't have your face.
But you don't have my name or can't see me.
We have your name and we can't see you, but you know what? It's fine if we don't see you, if you're not in a
we'd like to see you.
I'm actually in the passenger seat of a car.
Oh, how fun.
And so it is a little dark on this moment, but I will soon be where I have some light. How's that?
That's great.
But we can talk as we go.
Yeah, we just want to hear about want to chat about your upcoming session, what you're kind of gearing up for, if there's anything you want to lead the people into, or just kind of general knowledge.
Let's start with something like the budget right. And the expectations at the Senate.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So this session, I have the assignment to be the vice chair of Senate Appropriations.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was somewhat a little bit maybe unexpected, but grateful for the opportunity. So been chairing an appropriations subcommittee, and now what the executive committee does is accumulate all of the appropriations from the subcommittees and filter through them. So when you get that opportunity, this is one of those years, quite honestly, that is going to normalize a little bit. We saw all that money that happened through COVID, and quite honestly, there were a lot of people that got government checks. There was a lot of COVID money that came, and there was a lot of what I would call abnormally extra money
Like,
that we
was there a
were.
lot of fraud too, Senator?
I don't know that there was so much fraud. I don't know that there was that, but people had cash from COVID programs. They spent it during COVID. They spent it on things that were taxable rather than taking vacations. Everybody was at home, and it seemed like they took some of that money and they put it to down payment on a RV or some ATV, and that all of those things were sales tax. And so
Right.
that there was an accumulation of different things that accumulated back to the state, and we knew that they weren't long-term sustaining. They were going to be one time, and so the state put a lot of those monies in rainy day funds and did some one-time needs. But I think our budget's going to normalize back to pre-COVID, where we're on a growth pace, but it's not going to be an extreme fund, be able to fund a lot of things that have come and been asked for in what we call requests for appropriation items. We anticipate this time executive appropriations set aside some money for a modest tax cut.
Like
That we'll
that.
debate. We'll debate how and where that may come. There's some debate around continuing of reducing the income tax rate. There's also some talk about doing something around Social Security tax, as people receive Social Security tax if they're above a certain income level. For them personally, they still pay tax on Social Security. If they're below that, tax on their Social Security. There's some ideas around tax and property tax
Hold on.
relief, but did set aside some money. Property
Hold
Okay.
on one
tax.
second, Senator. We may have to have you repeat again. You drove under a bridge and it made us lose you. So right after you
Okay.
said some people, if they make a certain amount, may pay tax on Social Security. Can you?
Oh yeah, Social Security. There's a level where if you make above a certain amount and still receive your Social Security tax benefits, you are liable for your state income tax on the Social Security. If you make below that level, then we've exempted it out. I think it's $78,000 is the level
Wow.
right now.
I don't
If you're below that,
understand.
That's a good amount.
I don't understand the Social Security tax. Isn't it in itself a tax? It feels like
money
our
that you
senior-
get back, for Social Security. So the rub here, and I do believe it's probably, I believe the statement is correct, and I agree with it, that you pay tax on your income, including the money that you send to Social Security out of your paycheck. And then now, as you take it back out, you're again taxed as income. And that's not right. Doesn't seem logical.
No.
As a state, we're one of a few states left that still have citizens pay on their Social Security tax. And we're working our way away from that.
Good.
So that's part of what we're doing. But as far as cost of living increases for government employees and for teachers, I think that's contemplating able to fund that. But there won't be a lot of growth in state government. There won't be a lot of additional money where people come and ask for help for certain things. There's always income or asks around, like Habitat for Humanities. Great organization, does great things in helping create homes for local families they would come to the legislature and have done in the past and say, hey, can you give us a little help, give us some money? Those are the kind of things that are really, quite honestly, harder to fund. And
Right.
they require a very robust situation in the economy. And those are the kind of things that we're going to really have to take a hard look at and see if there's money left for those kind of asks that come. So around the
Senator,
budget,
is it possible to get our budget pre-COVID spending? I mean, that's what I'm understanding. Is that what you guys are shooting for? Because before COVID, we ran a pretty tight ship statewide. You guys did a great job as keeping us a rainy day fund and getting us on track. After COVID, all that money hit the market. And now we're kind of still in that spending, right? The budget is still is COVID
well,
numbers.
the good news is we treated all of that money as one time. So we
Good.
didn't spend it on long-term things like salary increases, new positions in government. We spent it on things like agricultural water optimization. We spent it on buying down some of our bonding. We spent
Right.
cash. We spent cash for transportation rather than going into the market and bonding. We also maxed out our rainy day funds. We put money in places that we knew that would be the best way to not increase and grow our government. And so we always have a balanced budget. We have to do that by constitution. We're very grateful that we always have to make sure that we don't spend more than we're going to take in. And it's very easy at that point then, because those were all one-time expenditures. We don't have to fund them continually. So as we get back to a more normal level, we can fund the things that we've always funded and not have to make cuts. That, quite honestly, in 2008, when the economy took the big hit, the legislature pre my time there had to go in and make some hard choices about jobs that would be cut, about some services that had to be pared down, all of those kind of things. And there are still enough people around in the legislature that remember those days. We never want to go back to that day if we don't have to. And this will not be one of those years.
Was unemployment really high in Utah during 08?
Boy, that's a good question. And I wouldn't dare quote the figure, but yes, unemployment trended up pretty high, pretty good.
Yeah,
And
that
then,
was, I mean, we lost our business in 08. That was just a nightmare year. People underwater in their homes, people not being able to afford their mortgages up. Absolutely. Just so I'm glad. And Utah, all states kind of should have a balanced budget every year. I wish our federal government would take a listen to our state government, because we'd be in a whole different scenario.
How would it
probably.
be? How
yeah,
would
and
it-
all states don't have to balance their budget. They can run some deficits.
California.
Okay, yeah,
Illinois
thank you. I almost said it, and then you did, so that's good.
Illinois right now is running the heaviest deficit of any state, and they're drowning in it.
Yeah, they're drowning in it, quite honestly, and gratefully we won't ever get into that position, and it's a good thing. We're soundly managed. We continue to rank number one best place for people to start a business, do a business, best managed state. We have a AAA bond rating. When we do longer term debt, we get the best rates for infrastructure. We actually have paid down a lot of bonds. We have constitutionally a cap of how much bonding we can do, and I think we're only at about 30% of what that cap could actually be. So we're in a really good fiscal position going into this year, and it's not a bad year. It's just a more normal year as far as growth. And for a couple of years there, expectations were running high, that
Yeah.
there was some extra money, and if we ask for it, we'll get it for our program. And legislature made some good decisions around that. So just want people to be aware that we take the budget really seriously, and we're grateful that we always have to balance our budget.
Senator,
Okay.
did
To hear
So I'm going to
that.
move where
you guys?
there's more light. I actually have arrived at home, and so
Okay.
I'm going to go in and see me. Apologize
Okay.
for that.
No, that's
You're
okay.
good.
Do you want to get to a different location and join us
No,
again,
no,
or
no,
are you good
I'm right here.
to stay
I'm
with
just,
us now?
I'll just stay on my
Right
phone.
door.
I'll just stay on my phone and get some lights turned on, and there we go.
Well, let's
Okay.
see. Let's talk about you're the senator for Tooele County, one of the senators that we have. You've been in office now for 8 years. How long have you been in?
10 sessions. This will be my 11th session. 4 and through my 7th
That's amazing.
session in the Senate. Kind of goes by fast.
Man, you've been around. I've been around a long time because it doesn't feel like you've been in as long as that. But I know we see you all the time. You're very active with Tooele County. I appreciate that. And we're not your only county. So you represent Box Elder, which is your home, right?
Mhm.
In Cache,
And
in Cache
the
County.
south part of Cache. That's correct.
So you've got the 3 locations. And then
Well, you've got the biggest too. I mean, Box Elder's huge. Tooele.
Yeah, it's geographically it's about the 3rd largest Senate district geography wise.
Okay. Okay.
So
let me ask you a question. So
sure.
Donald Trump brought up a notion of doing away with overtime taxes. And as a guy who touches overtime quite often, when I do, the state and the feds must take severe umbrance with that. Because now it is crazy because on normal tax times from my paycheck, this is just my paycheck, pre-buying stuff tax, they usually hit me for just on the tax side about 25%, not a lot. But if I touch overtime, everything I worked on normal time gets hit heavy. And is there a way that we can maybe not hate me when I work overtime?
So all of our personal income tax is taxed the same, whether you're taxed as we don't have tax brackets. So in your individual situation, I'm not sure why it feels like they're taking a percentage of your overtime pay, but overtime would be taxed at the same rate as a state level at 4.65, I believe, is where we're at right now as a percent. Whether you make $10,000 or $110,000, you're paying the same flat rate.
4% is their Utah tax.
So it's the feds that are hitting me so hard.
You may, because of your income tax, because you move into a higher bracket, because our federal taxes are based on you pay less if you make less percentage wise, and you pay more if you make more percentage wise. It could be that, but no, our state tax is a flat tax.
It feels like a conspiracy because I'm going to tell you right now, on my last paycheck, 1/3 of the paycheck was taken.
That's great. You need to look into that. Check on how
1/3.
many
It was crazy.
deductibles you have.
You better see. Yeah, hopefully you get most of it back when you file, and maybe your employer is just got you in the wrong bracket federally.
Might be, but that's just giving the feds a free loan that they're going to go and do nasty stuff with.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to get your dependents maybe figured out. Maybe you got too many or too little.
Yeah, that may have
Senator,
to change.
have you guys had to
I
raise
couldn't agree
taxes?
more. Go ahead. What's that?
Have you guys had to raise taxes over the last so many years? I mean, have we seen Utah? Because
No,
that sounds like a really low percentage, actually, comparatively
no,
to other states.
no. Our income tax, our personal income tax rate, was historically 15 years ago. It was at 7, and then it was dropped to 5. I believe that was during Governor Levitt's time frame. It's remained at 5 for a long time, and since I've been in the legislature, we've incrementally been able to decrease that
It's amazing.
down below 5%. And so, yeah, we again last year cut it. So
That's
we're
amazing.
down.
And maybe
Quite
that's why
honest,
we're so well run, because you guys are doing more and people are getting more of their money, and that gets back into the economy, and that helps our state.
Well,
well,
hold on.
go ahead.
Did Utah fill any skate parks in with sand
During COVID.
or at any time? Because I
Wow.
imagine that's not cheap to fill a skate park in with sand.
Again, California.
I don't think we filled a skate park in. I don't
Yeah.
know if we did, but I sure don't know if we did. I don't know that we
haven't
did.
heard of it, but I know California did. And remember, California paid a police officer to chase a surfer down an empty beach.
In Malibu.
Now that hadn't have been cheap either. I mean, what if the officer crosses over into overtime time while he's chasing this surfer who's by himself endangering the community?
All right, wake up from your fever
my
dream.
gosh.
We're out of COVID now. Let's not go back there.
It's just saying California does some goofy stuff.
Oh dear.
Well, they don't have a majority of Republicans in their House, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And
Do you
Senate.
still hear us? Senator?
I can still hear
Okay.
you, but you cut out. Let me make sure one quick thing here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I just remember those.
So I want to talk a little bit about California in the sense that
Please do, because that's
energy. They want to go all electric in 2030, which seems crazy because California doesn't have water, right? They can't even run the electricity they need now. So to go fully electric in 2030 is a little bit insane. But then they need water that comes through Utah and Nevada and Arizona.
And coal from Utah and
but
everything they do.
We are in an energy demand, and we have a great opportunity in Utah if the federal government lifts some restrictions and lets us get energy off the BLM land or whatever. And what do you think about Utah's energy demands, and what is our Senate doing about that?
Great question. And you are right. We are ramping up the demand. I say we as a world, the demand for electricity with AI and data centers that, whether you like them or not, they're here and they require a huge amount of electricity. My opinion is you can't supply what they need with solar and wind.
No.
We won't get there. We've got to allow and permit nuclear faster, more efficiently. We've got to allow geothermal that can come online. We've got to do our best to make that permitted as best we can. And in the meantime, fossil fuels have a big place to play in this. Natural gas is abundant, and we know how to produce power with natural gas. Coal, we've got clean coal. We know how to produce power with coal. And even if we ramp down those and eventually put that over to nuclear, we're still going to need, for 20 or 30 years, we're going to need some coal-fired plants. But in the meantime, we've got people. I get someone weekly who will call me because I've done some work around energy, and they'll say, we want to locate a data center. we've got AI. We want to come to Utah. How can you help us get energy here? How can you help us get what we want? And I've got a bill file open to try to help those large consumers marry up with a producer of energy. In the past, it's been a little tough because our regulatory system around energy has said we're going to give a monopoly to a geographic area, whether that's Rocky Mountain Power or whether that's our municipal systems. You have a geographical footprint and you have a monopoly there. And anytime they go to build a new facility, they have to put the burden of that capitalization costs on all of their customers. So now all of a sudden, if I've got a data center that comes in and they're requiring a whole new plant to be built, to spread that out across their original customer base might increase our utility rates for people on fixed incomes,
Yeah.
for all the rest of us. And so what I'm trying to do with this bill file is create a way where energy providers can do contracts, specific contracts with these high energy users.
Without
And
a
in
monopoly or with
yeah, well,
opening it up?
it's basically under contract. There's going to be a little competition in this,
Good.
and we're going to insulate the uh, current ratepayers from that exposure. The data center is going to have to come in. They're going to have to capitalize it. They're going to have to do all of those things. And quite honestly, they're going to help pay for some transmission costs across the
Infrastructure.
grid and infrastructure in doing this. It's a big piece. Um, Met today with a company who has got their eye on small modular reactors. These what we call SMRs. Um, these SMRs, proven safe technology. They're bigger than the ones that we often think of those small modular nuclears as what the Navy's been using in submarines and aircraft carriers for 50 years.
Right.
But along the same technology in a way, but they'll be a bigger producer. Some of these reactors are looking at 300 megawatt production, and that's big.
Is this kind of the
That
French model, the model France has been running with for the last, what, 5 years? This new,
France France has been a leader in nuclear, kind of 70%. We went over and visited and spent like 5 days, a few of us, with French government, and they are 70% nuclear for their electricity demands.
Well, it's very
A lot of
clean
those
and it's very
a lot of
safe,
those are
right?
old school. A lot of those are old school reactors. The new modular reactors are coming online. We'd like to see Utah in the lead in manufacturing, in placement of nuclear. I don't know if you know this right now, but we don't have one nuclear spot that produces energy in the state of Utah.
Is
We
there
have zero.
isn't there very minimal nuclear plants even in the United States? I mean, doesn't regulation kind of make them too expensive to create, or are they popping up more? Because we're talking nuclear power now, and that used to freak people out, and yet as we're coming online with all this need for electricity, and I feel like Utah should lead the charge, and we've got enormous counties like ours, for example, that would be a prime location if they could just free up some of that land, which I know you guys are always trying to do anyway on the state with the federal government. But nuclear energy is safe and it's clean, correct?
It is. It's safe and clean. The one of the biggest there've been two stopping points for nuclear energy. During the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of old style nuclear plants. When I say old style, I'm talking about ones that were water cooled. So you had to have them placed next to a very large water source, big river, big lake, or on the ocean where you could cool those reactors. And those were massively big in what they produced. 3 Mile Island comes along, Chernobyl comes along, and all of a sudden people are concerned about the safety of that size of a plant.
Right.
And so, and in the West, because we don't have that much water to be able to use and cool, we have a less advantage. The new technology cools, it's a complicated process. I'm not a scientist, but it cools in a different way and with molten salt. So
And we have
now we're
that.
able to, now we're able to, now they're able to build these reactors and they don't require the massive amounts of water that they did before. So now that technology is available in an arid state like Utah, and we can do that. The problem still is the federal government and their permitting process can take 7 to 10 years to
Right.
even begin to get the site done. What we need is power produced in 7 years,
Yeah.
not the permitting.
Well,
And
not just that, but
so
how do you
we're,
convince a company to commit to 7 years of possibly be able to cutting ground?
yeah, no, it's bizarre. And we're working with our federal partners. Our federal delegation's well aware of this. I'm so grateful the Trump administration is completely on board with this, and we have got to streamline the process for permitting. That's the
Absolutely.
first thing we've got to do. We've also got to streamline the process for transmission, and we can't make that incumbent on the type of electricity that we're going to transmit. In the last administration, they were very, very happy to permit a transmission line as long as it was wind and solar. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, wind and solar, in my opinion, without some kind of government subsidy, is going to fall to the bottom of the list of the types of power that we're going to use in the future.
Well, it
I just
doesn't
don't.
produce.
It's intermittent.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
intermittent.
you can't count on it. You have to have a coal-fired plant burning all the time
Yeah, you can't do it
for the
without
And
oil
and
and gas. I mean, you
and
can't even
the
create that stuff.
and one thing, it's a little bit of a fallacy to believe that it's completely environmentally friendly,
Yeah.
where it takes 500,000 pounds of dirt being mined somewhere in the world to create 1,000-pound Tesla battery.
yeah,
Right.
Now,
But
I
not in
don't know
your
if you knew
backyard.
that.
It
I didn't
destroys
know.
Africa. It destroys China. Not in your
So,
backyard. It takes the rainforest out. And it's fine because you're saving the planet in your backyard. But there are people dying trying to mine those minerals
yeah.
and things to build one battery.
Let me ask you this. I've heard that there is a nuclear plant being built up by Kemmer.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. That's in cooperation with Rocky Mountain Power, the first new nuclear facility built in at least 2 or 3 decades,
Huh.
and that's scheduled to come online, I think, in 2030. But again, 10 to 12 years they were in the permitting process.
Wow.
Um, it is a newer technology. Don't I'm not a nuclear engineer, so I'm
That's
not sure
okay.
exactly which it is, but it is larger than a small modular nuclear reactor, smaller than an SMR, or it is larger. Excuse me. I think it's 1,000 megawatts is what they're anticipating producing up there. Small modular would be anywhere from 50 to 300.
Can't a nuclear power plant really give power to the entire state? Or is it only specific to an area? Because I don't understand it. I mean, it feels like if
That's
Utah
a good
did it
question, and
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 led
your
the
listeners
way,
your listeners probably ought to understand we're not just Utah Power specific. We're Western region.
right?
Our grid is incorporating all of the Western states, from California through to Colorado. And so when there's a demand on the system, the power that you're getting may come from Washington, it may come from a dam in Oregon, somewhere else. It doesn't just get generated. You generate it, then it gets put on the system, and then the system draws from that.
Like a grid.
And like a grid, it draws from the grid. And so it's really way more complex than just inside our own boundaries. If we lived in Alaska, it's different because Alaska is self-contained
Yeah.
in their own electrical grid. But in the West, we've built it as a region.
Yeah.
And so you have to take that into consideration. It's a complex issue, but the base thing is you've got to have more power produced.
especially if we want to start moving towards non-combustion vehicles, non-combustion mass transit,
It
we're
doesn't.
we're going to have
Yeah.
that power availability.
You know how bad it sucks that we are on a Western states grid when you have states that don't run like ours and they make bad decisions, California, and they make bad decisions, and then the whole Western states are going to kind of be punished for it,
The East does it too. I mean, the East has New York.
They
on it.
do. They do. And just a point I think you'd be interested in, maybe your listeners would be interested as well. Our major supplier of power, Rocky Mountain Power, under the Pacific Corp umbrella, has 6 states: Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Nevada, and Wyoming.
No, Montana.
When no, Montana's not a part of under that umbrella. There's 6
Gotcha.
states. So they deal with 6 different regulatory commissions. And when they established, when Utah Idaho Power Company rolled into the Rocky Mountain Power System, the idea was least cost, most reliable power. And all 6 states kind of had that in their political mind. And what happened over 20 years was, quite honestly, Oregon, Washington, and California began politically to elevate something above low cost and reliable, which
Right.
was
Kind of became the whole
clean
global warming
or
thing.
whatever. And so now we're left with Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming, who are still based on affordable and reliable more than something else. And there's some serious talk about maybe we do need to back up and separate this company to Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, and then the rest of the provider on the West Coast, they can do their own thing.
Is our
Again,
grid
a
secure?
complicated divorce.
Right.
What's that?
Is it possible to cut the grid and just be Utah, first and only supply power to Utahns and get out of the Western states grid? Or is that
I
like
don't think
we don't really have a
I don't think
choice?
it's I don't think it's possible, or I don't think it's advisable, quite honestly,
Right.
Holly,
Yeah, we want
because the redundancy and the reliability, what we don't want to be is saddled with extra costs that politically they make. For example, Rocky Mountain Power got sued over a transmission line that went down and caused a fire in Oregon because in Oregon, the legislature made Rocky Mountain Power liable for it. In Utah, we have given Rocky Mountain Power some coverage basically to say if you do certain things to protect, we're not going to allow a lawsuit like that to happen in Utah. That kind of insulates our customers from a frivolous lawsuit that can cost, quite honestly, hundreds of millions of dollars to ratepayers.
Right.
And those are the kind of political decisions that we're willing to make that West Coast is not.
Where do I sign to separate us from the purple-haired weirdos?
I think you've got. I think you've got a legislature that's working on that. Let's put that. Let's put it.
That's the issue.
You don't have to sign up. I think we're already working on it.
Good. We just need. You know what? I love Oregon. I love California. Is the most beautiful geographic area on the face of the planet. Geographically, the most beautiful thing that in all of creation. It's amazing.
All right, settle down.
But with that, all of the kooks and the criminals and people who don't want to freeze in the winter move there. And so it's been an abundance of weak takers, and they're ruled by
Nancy Pelosi.
they're ruled by lizard people. And so we just need to let them go do their thing for a while. Trust me, they will collapse. They'll come back. Then we'll start a new game show. It's called, I want to call it Flip This State. And we all go to California and make it right and rebuild it. But that's after they're done with what they're doing right
but
now.
freedom's so messy, Jared. These legislators are voted for, and it's not gerrymandered at all. And
Well, they're European style freedom is what they are. They want no responsibility and just free stuff.
Senator, I think that Curtis had come out when he was running to talk about nuclear energy, and when he was on the when he was coming to Tooele County, I think he was the first one to say, "Look, climate change is a thing, but it's not the thing they've made it out to be all these years, and you can't go forward without oil and gas. We can always make our world safer, cleaner." But the United States is doing everything it can, and Utah's doing everything it can to preserve, a good environment for its people. But at the end of the day, if India does nothing and China does nothing, I mean, wind and solar aren't going to save us, and we should consider nuclear energy, as well as maybe opening some drill permits here in Utah if they can do it, in and out, or make it so we can be self-sufficient, energy independent, maybe in our state.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're working towards that. I've said a number of times, unfortunately, the war became a war on fossil fuel instead of a war on pollution.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
For us to then politicize that war to try to drive some kind of an agenda is even worse.
It's a money grab.
That's what the left has done. But I think we should just let's change this thing around. Let's begin to believe that we can burn coal to make electricity, and we can do it without polluting. We can figure that technology out, and then guess what? We can send that technology to India or somewhere else, and we can fight the war on pollution, not on fossil fuel. But
And not
India,
on humanity.
and not on humanity. India is not going to probably develop the technology to clean it up, but we can, and then we can export it. Then we get to the fact that those people that are trying to take fossil fuel out of the mix don't realize or don't want to admit that 20% of the world still burns wood or dung for heating and cooking. And they can't automatically transition, even in a perfect world, to wind and solar, let alone to nuclear.
I don't think people understand.
The stepping stone for the world, for our world, has been fossil fuel. And for their world, it still has to be fossil fuel to get them out of wood and dung to provide electricity even, or to heat or cook with.
Many of these places are just getting clean water in the last 5 years. And I don't think the American people understand what poverty really is, what hurt really is. And in the United States, we could lead by example. We've got a whole generation of kids that we grew up with fear of nuclear war, right? That was our fear. We got a whole generation of kids who think that our planet is going to implode and, it's going to be over. And yet the reality is that was a money grab meant to scare, and it's worked. But it's also been an attack on what you said. It's on the fossil fuel rather than the pollution, and helping everyone give a hand up around the world and getting them clean water and helping them not burn dung and wood. We could do a lot of things.
Yeah, good point. But if we're trying to raise the level of around the standard of living around the world, that's going to be done on the back of fossil fuel.
Absolutely.
Because it's the most abundant, it's the most reliable that we know of right now, and quite honestly, it's the least expensive to type of fuel that's a concentrated fuel that we have and that we know.
The
So
easiest to transport,
energy's big.
use when you need it. There's so many benefits to fossil fuels. Also, even when we go to nuclear.
Oh yeah, yeah.
everything-
We're gonna have to still continue
Yes,
with our
we're gonna-
fossil
Well,
fuel
because
system.
everything you own is
Well, it's not
got
just, even if we went away
petroleum
from
in it.
that,
It's
everything.
petroleum.
everything that moves needs grease.
That's
And
really deep.
grease is still going to be there. It's going to be there when we go all nuclear. If we have solar panels that track the sun, you're going to have to grease that stuff.
Oh, you need it to even create that stuff.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. We're not going away from fossil fuels. We may eventually, and it'd be cool to get to a point where we no longer rely on it for the major modes of transportation, and electricity is able to step in and take that over. And I hope we can go away from our current iteration of batteries, because they are extremely hazardous and
toxic, right?
Let's face it, it's
in the
they
ground.
use slavery to get it. That's how they get it right now.
Child slavery.
I'm just not. I'm just not really sold on the idea that we're gonna be able to solve this problem with wind, solar, and batteries.
It's true. And you're a farmer, right?
Yeah.
You're a farmer. Does it make sense to try to do an EV type of change for
EV combine.
for agriculture?
Come on, bring on the
Yeah.
EV combine.
This just seems it's like, I'm so glad that you and other members of the House and Senate are actually looking at this subject with logic in your mind. I mean, we know Tim Jimenez very, very well. And I mean, he's a very dear friend.
Mm-hmm.
And as an environmental engineer, it's amazing that he can sit down and say, hey, there's no way these APA standards and all of these different things are going to work, because it's never going to settle. And we have to keep in mind that fossil fuels and nuclear are an option and should be highly considered. I just appreciate that you, Senator, and others are looking at our options here and are keeping Utah in mind.
Now, Senator, we do have a heavy subject to approach with you right now.
Okay.
We have a question from Chris Webb. Now, I myself just a few days ago gave up the vape, and I'm happy to have done that. But
Congratulations.
yeah, and it's tough. And I'm thankful for it, because it got me off of cigarettes years ago, and I wish I'd have never started that. But,
But it got you off of cigarettes.
it got me off of
A
cigarettes.
lot of
and
people have quit smoking and turned to the vape.
now I'm off the vape, and I'm chewing gum, and I don't know what I'm going to have to use to get off the gum in 5 years. But Chris Webb says, figure out how to drop the vape ban. I'm an adult and have the right to buy a flavored puff bar or a darn cigarette. I can go buy flavored liquor or just drive an hour to buy in another state. So we've got the vape ban.
Yeah, I was very frustrated with the vape ban, because I think that I know that they're worried about teenagers, but just like firearms, liquor, other tobacco products, I think it's a parental responsibility. And if they're worried about teenagers, perhaps they make it more of a bigger deal when they catch teenagers with it, but rather take the freedom away from a business who sells it and the people who are grown up who want to participate in a flavored vape. I just think I'm one of those people that, I would rather you vote freedom first and independent, responsibility and accountability. So I know you voted for the ban. And so I'm curious, is there any option for the people who disagree with this, or can you share your experience on this bill? Because this went under the radar to us. We didn't realize it when it was voted on in March.
Right. No, and you're very correct. So my line of thinking down this was kind of the front end of the experience that has just been described that you had getting off of cigarettes and tobacco, and you used vape to do it. We were presented with a number of studies that suggested that vape companies were actually targeting and showing, actually really just targeting youth to get them using a flavored vape, and that was beginning the process of a gateway of a lifetime of addiction to vapes that, quite honestly, contain some really harmful things. So I do agree that as an adult, it's really your choice. As a youth, or as someone underage, how do you make that? How do you distinguish the flavored and being able to do to come into the flavor? Because if it's a menthol vape, uh, I don't think it's as attractive to youth. But the flavored vapes, and I've never done it. Maybe
But it's
you've got an
attractive to adults as well, because it makes a non-flavored vape is like, from what people say, it's like an ashtray. It's like cigarettes. Why not just go back to cigarettes? But the flavored vapes allowed for more people to get off the cigarettes, and it made it so it wasn't a gross experience. Again, just like a firearm, as a parent, if you vape, you've got to protect your kids from getting a hold of it, just like you do with alcohol. And they can't advertise on television, just like cigarettes and all of that. They have the warnings on them. And businesses, I mean, we've got 3 shops in this county,
Oh, in this
at least in
We've
this
got
town.
5 shops
that
in
we-
the county, I think. But
Our last show, I did a whole research and talked to these shop owners, and this is just a huge problem.
well, I want to have a pulpit for a minute. I'm of 2 minds. Okay. The vape got me off of cigarettes, something I was on forever. And I'm thankful for that. I'm always going to be thankful for that. If the vapes are targeting children, I think this is just a critique, but I'm not calling you guys wrong. I'm actually ambivalent on this bill because, when it got brought up, it got me thinking, and it got me to take this step to quit. But if vape companies are targeting children, I would rather that was a targeted approach by our legislature to go after that.
How are they targeting children?
That I
Because
don't know.
they're not able to advertise, right?
That I don't know. But if it is, that's what I'd rather see. But on the other side and the supporting you side, vapes have much more nicotine in them than tobacco products do. They're much more addictive. I'm telling you right now. I'm 3 days into it. They have a lot more nicotine in them,
and they're easy to puff, so you can
and
do
you
it more
can do
often.
it more often, and it's you can have a more sustained
You're so excited about this conversation. Huh?
intubation.
nicotine. Well, you're kind of leading a little to the philosophy that I guess I took when we voted about banning flavored vape, and that is that it is more addictive. And you think about it, maybe I'm wrong, but when vaping first came out, there was an idea, there was a philosophy that, oh, vaping's much better than cigarettes. Vaping, in fact, it's just water vapor. It's okay. It
might still be. It might be. We don't know.
Not
but it's
long-term
still
studies
something
yet.
you don't want to have. But here's a thought I would like to pop into your head and let you chew on this for a little while.
Okay.
What if you made it so that they can have flavored vapes, but it cannot have nicotine?
Like
So
the fume, right?
If they want to do a flavored vape, if they want their vape to taste like candy or whatever, it'll be nicotine free. And what if that is a secret way to get them off the nicotine? Because
could we also include anything else that, because there's more in a vape from what I have been told than
Oh,
just
yeah.
nicotine.
And then
That's
nitroglycerin
that's
Sure, but
That's-
nicotine is the addictive part. And I'm thinking, what if you did a runaround way to break the nicotine addiction?
again, that's the government
It
deciding for you.
it is. But what if you just said, look, and chew on it? I'm not even sold on it. But vapes do have more nicotine in them than cigarettes. They do. They've tested them. Your average vape has, it's going to shock you, but it has almost a third more on your average vape. And some of them have up to like double. And so it's more addictive. And then pair that with the fact that they can do it in their house or in their bedroom and their parents can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Unlike with cigarettes.
Odor free after. It's not like you get your kid and you can smell they've been smoking.
And it's
Right.
not like a cigarette where you have to light up a cigarette and you're committed for the 5 minutes while that cigarette's being burned. They can take a hit on it as they walk somewhere from somewhere else and just continuously keep a nicotine going. So I'm wondering, maybe just a thought, maybe it can be an add-on clause for this session saying, you know what, if you want a flavored vape, no nicotine, no addictive, just say this, no known addictive substance.
I
Right?
think people
Okay.
in Wendover are going to make money.
And then just let that through. And maybe some people will break their nicotine habit with these non-nicotine vapes to keep the sweet candy flavor part of it. And then eventually goes away easy on its own and you don't have to have a heavy hand.
Be
Okay.
interesting to see what the manufacturers, if they felt like there would be enough demand and they could market something, a non-nicotine vape in enough, because they have to be able to have enough market. If Utah is the only one that does that, would we ran into that problem when we had to increase the volume of alcohol in beer, because there were only 2 states left in the nation that were at 3.2 or
Mhm.
under that. We had
Didn't
to
California,
elevate it up because the manufacturers just said, we're not going to, for you in Kansas, Utah and
Yeah.
Kansas, we can't afford to just make it.
Right.
yeah. Didn't California, don't they have a flavored vape ban currently or one
I think
coming
it's
on board?
Juul. I think they banned a Juul. But does this law allow for a new vape to be even, the way the law reads, it looks like a vape, even if it was nicotine free, couldn't be sold. Is that right?
No,
I think-
you can have a tobacco or menthol. You can have
But it
traditional
says
tobacco
flavored
flavors.
vape.
Yeah,
is
you
banned.
can't have fruity flavored.
So if it was
vapes.
a
Yeah, you can't do the
nicotine-flavored
fruities.
You'd have to amend the law.
Well, if you do nicotine free, like you have a new law written that,
You have
or
to do
an
that.
add-on that says, hey, you know what? We'll let the flavored, the good taste and stuff in, just no nicotine in those. And then you run the back door and get those kids to, because I really want kids to quit vaping. I do. I would like to see it go away totally. And I've wanted this even when I was a vapor, because let's face it, nothing looks lamer than an adult man using an electronic
Guys,
toy for his addiction.
I think Todd Weiler said it right when, a lot of the points he made. And I just think that I wish they would have erred on the side of freedom, and maybe taken the course to actually punish teenagers rightfully, as if you found them at school with a bottle of liquor, if you found them at school with a firearm, but don't ruin their life per se. But
I think
It's-
that
it's
it's a
too-
$60 fine for underage right now with a vape pen their first time.
But again, if they're the ones who are breaking the law and their parents are the
True.
ones who are being irresponsible, if they are allowing their kids access
True.
to it, I just know a lot of women that I know, it completely saved them in the sense that they got off of cigarettes and all of that. And I don't want to take, I know we're getting to the end of the show and I still have questions for you. If you have a couple minutes,
Sure.
I know.
Hey, by the way, good suggestion, and I'll work on it. I'll keep it in mind. I'll
Do
float
some
the idea
studying,
around,
too.
see where we're at.
Do some studying, see if somewhere's tried it, see what their effects are, obviously.
I just think the
fair
ban needs
enough.
to go away.
I'm ambivalent on the ban because, again, I hate vape. I hate it when I vaped, but it got me off of cigarettes.
I just hate bans, and I
And
hate
now
that.
I'm getting off the vape, but we're talking 10 years later, maybe more than 10 years, maybe more like,
Vaping.
yeah. I mean, since they first came out, I was like, oh, wow, something that'll get me off the cigarettes because I don't like the smell of cigarettes. So I started the vape pens and, you know, I'm going to always be grateful for them doing that. But I do know the vapes have more nicotine in them than cigarettes. And that's a lot to drink in. It means it's more addictive. It's more neurotropic or whatever you call it.
Well, the whole act of doing it is a whole thing. But again, we're doing all the talking here, and this was our topic last time and our last show, and we had a lot of interaction on that because people from other states couldn't believe that our state was making a ban like this, and a lot of them didn't understand. You know, some people don't understand how Utah doesn't allow us to mail alcohol to like a wine basket. You can't receive alcohol in the mail, and you can't order vapes online. You can't. We're pretty protected in that area, and our liquor stores are all state-run stores. And so, I mean, we just have a lot of protections in place already compared to other states. So it's just new. We get people from New York, we get people from other states that are just going, wait, what? What is your state doing? And honestly, I have no problem with it most of the time. And I work in the hospitality industry where I can bartend, and I would manage and order the alcohol and things like that. I've worked with the DABS for years, and I've seen us evolve, especially through the first Olympics. And I'm sure we're going to do some more evolving for the next Olympics, because we are different and we have to be able to still run with manufacturing of product. They've got to be able to sell beer in Utah without banning beer completely, because the beer makers aren't going to make a percentage of beer just for Utah. And is it Kansas, you said?
Yeah, that's already done. We increased that limit.
But then we dropped the DUI limit to 5% or 0.05.
0.05 from
instead
0.08.
Of 0.08. I mean, there's just a lot. And again, I know most people are great. I love our state. I love all of it. People are confused. Why can't you send a wine basket in? I can send one to someone in Washington or Oregon, but I can't receive one or send it to someone in Utah. So that was interesting. Now jumping to a different topic, because you have a bill for cosmetology.
Yeah,
right?
Interesting. In the legislature, you move from energy to cosmetology sometimes. So what we've tried to do in the legislature is make sure that when we do licensing, that licensing is centered around the perception or the anticipation from the public that there's some safety involved, or there's a level of competency,
training,
and not a barrier to entry. In other words, if we were requiring a super large amount of time, classroom time or whatever, say in the cosmetology industry, and it was more a barrier to entry than it was public safety, we should take a look at that. And that's the things that we've been doing. I don't even remember the great debate in years past over whether hair braiding, the braiding of hair, needed or required a license. And those that were in the business of schooling people in cosmetology put up a big stink, and people then said, well, why do we need a license? Because this really isn't a safety issue, right?
Right. You could braid your own hair or your
you
children's
braid your
hair
own hair. You can, and we're talking about these. We're talking about the really tight braids.
Right.
You know, the stuff that maybe my kids thought was really cool when we went to Nassau one time, and the lady
Every
braided
tourist
the hair. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a big debate. And when it got all done, you were like, well, the only reason that it was is because it was a barrier to entry. And so now we begin to look and say, well, is clipping your hair or is blow drying your hair, these blow
Washing your
dry
hair.
bars, yeah, these dry bars, and and so we've had that debate. Well, now we're finally looking and saying, okay, right now a cosmetology license requires 600 hours of school, and that incorporates, now you're licensed to do nails, hair, eyelashes, barbering, all of those kind of things. But maybe a student doesn't really care whether they're going to style the hair, they just want to do nails.
Right.
So maybe we ought to compartmentalize, because there is some training that I think is required, and people expect when they go to get their nails done that someone understands, okay, this part of cleanliness is important. Okay.
Absolutely, because it can
When
be
they go to
dangerous.
do when they do eyelashes, okay, when you do hair, there's bleach, there's coloring, there's chemicals involved. And rather than have to school someone for 600 hours and to do everything in cosmetology, maybe somebody just does want to specialize in nails.
That's
Maybe
brilliant.
we need less hours of training around that. Now the schools, once again, are seeing, whoa, this is maybe something that will be bad for us because we don't get as much revenue.
Right.
And so we're going to have some pushback in that regard. But as a whole, around cosmetology in the industry, the thought here is that we're going to look at reducing the amount of hours to better match someone's desire to only work in a specific realm of cosmetology,
Right.
and in doing so, covering the basics of making sure that the public safety is upheld. So we're gonna tackle that. We're gonna look and see how much of this we can get done in and around in the cosmetology industry. Um, People say, "Well, how come you're involved in this?" Well, my wife and I actually owned a beauty salon, and
Oh, really?
my wife is not and has never been schooled. I did it. We did it as a business venture. Worked out really well. And then one of the stylists came to us after about 5 years and said, "You know what? I'd really like this." And we said, "Okay, we'll sell it to you." So we sold it to her, but have a kind of a knowledge and an interest in and around what happens in that space. And I have a daughter who's a master esthetician. And
Okay, is
so
that the one
I
that is that who does like Botox and things like that?
master
Skincare?
estheticians are those that do the micro needling. They do those levels of kind of higher intensity around skincare.
Right,
And
the
they do
potential peels.
require, they require 1,200 hours to become
Yeah,
a
and
master
they should.
esthetician.
They should, just because
And
you're
and
injecting people's faces, and when you're tattooing or you're putting those peels on chemical peels, I think
right.
that you're doing medical
It,
practices.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. It's a different level than described it this way. Cosmetology is a very mature industry. There are not a lot of new techniques, new chemicals, and things that come out. And thus being and in the esthetician world, it's evolving very rapidly. There's new machines, there's new techniques, there's new chemicals, all of these kind of things that we probably stay at the system we're at in the esthetician, master esthetician world. But the cosmetology world, I think we'll look at trying to match some of this licensure a little bit less, make it a little less cumbersome, so it's not such a barrier to entry for these students who want to come out and participate.
Well,
Senator,
I like it. If a lady has an opportunity to get a job where she just does nails, she could knock that out so much
fast track
quicker,
it. Yeah.
get the job so much quicker. And then if later on she wants to add hair on, she can go back and add hair on, or if she
And,
wants to do.
exactly, and get a certificate for something else in the cosmetology world.
I like it.
I actually think you're going to have more money, because that's the thing. If you do hair, chances are you're not going to do nails. They're two totally different genres and require two totally different skills. So if you have a young lady or man who
remember-
wants to fast track,
But remember, Holly, the education community around cosmetology likes to bundle it together
absolutely.
and be able to sell 600 hours of education. They
It's
don't want to
job
sell.
security.
They don't want to sell 300 hours of education to somebody who just wants to do nails.
But I
or
think
eyelashes.
you would get more people, because I know a lot of girls who do eyelashes, but do they do it? I mean, I think you get a lot of people who are like, you know what, right out of high school, I'm going to go to cosmetology school to become a lash technician. So they go in, and if they can do it in half the time or a quarter of the time to learn that one skill and then open their business, I think schools will have a lot of business from these people who are looking to finite pick their career.
I'm just good with look, no disrespect to schools, but you guys have been sucking our nation dry for long enough. Take a
We're
step
not-
back.
Well, in the legislature, we're not in the business to keep cosmetology schools open. We're in
Thank
the
you.
business. We're in the business to make sure that there's a level of trust and security and public safety when someone walks in the door and say you're qualified. We know you've been to enough school to know you're qualified to do X, but we're not. And once we accomplish that, the public safety piece, we want to make sure the licensure is not a barrier to entry or an overcost to someone who wants to license.
Considering what they
Not-
would make doing the job,
Yeah.
if they're paying all this money and all this time to only make a certain amount, you're right. The barrier would hurt them. What is a business license cost? Does it just depend on the county? I mean,
Depends on
Yeah,
the
the business license is different than the license from Doppel. And the
this is-
Doppel license isn't that expensive, quite honestly. The expense is getting the training to certify under the Doppel system.
are they required
and
to have
to
a
pass
liability
the
insurance?
test.
If they, I guess if they're out on their own, they may have to, because
It may be
You can't-
city dependent.
Yeah, that may be business license dependent, quite honestly. And
Yeah.
I haven't investigated that.
I
But
love
no,
this.
I
love
like
this.
it. I like that an individual who wants to pursue nails can pursue nails faster. That maybe that's where they want to stop, or maybe that's a means for them to afford to pursue other things. I think it's a great idea to break
Yeah.
that apart, to make that specific. And I think the schools, they just need to become more nimble with how they set up their stuff. They're still going to do just fine. There's, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Have you heard from any cosmetology experts, like
Oh, there's
hair,
going to be
nails?
a
I mean, I
bunch
bet you
Oh,
get
yes.
a lot
There's
of
going to be a whole
business
bunch of
owners.
ladies with aprons and
so-
bouffant hairdos.
So you guys,
Ticketing.
this was the bill file that was talked about and done in interim. And when it was presented, over 200 people came
I
in
bet.
October to the Capitol, just with their opinion. This is not something that people just don't have an opinion about.
Right.
This has got a big following, and so I know what I've got here, and it's not an easy needle to thread.
You've got the
But
wolf by the ears.
we'll see how we can thread it.
I'm telling you, I think that most of the people I know that do this for a living would get on board with this, because they could go back to school if they wanted. If it was a finite plan, and let's say they are an esthetician, and they could go back to school to learn the new trade or to learn the new whatever's happening in the culture now, and they can do it faster and their money goes right to the thing they were looking for, I think you'll see people go back and you'll see more people go in. I think as somebody who uses those services, I absolutely can see this being a great bill. And you have a lot of business owners and people in cosmetology that would support this over the
Well,
education of it.
We'll see. We'll see. Holly, I tell you, this is a sensitive topic.
I'm
All the
sure.
way back to hair braiding. And
Right.
it's funny how big of a deal that was and what a huge fight and discussion it was around unlicensing hair braiding.
Well,
I'm just
what was
telling you,
what was
it's
the decision?
this brings the people out.
You're kicking the hornet's nest when it comes to ladies doing their hair.
Well, this is not for the weak.
You thought energy was tough, Senator? You're
Oh, I
touching
know.
the hairdresser.
I know. I
Senator,
know.
what was the final decision? Do you have to have a license to braid hair?
No.
Okay.
No,
Well-
no, we've slowly been walking back those license requirements, based on the fact that it was a barrier to entry and not a public safety issue.
Well, yeah. What kind of damage could you do with braids, considering what kind of damage you could do with hair color, with nails and sanitariness? I mean, is that
And a certain
word?
point, and a certain point, you do have to create a buyer beware situation. If you go to someone and because they cut your hair and you don't like it, you're not going to go back to them.
Right.
Not so much that they had a license or not. The consumer is going to make that decision once you realize that the person is trained well enough not to know to put the bleach on and leave it in the wrong spots and burn your scalp.
Yeah,
And
that's
what
what
we
you're
have
looking
Judge
for.
Judy for, though, right? They've got a lot of
Yeah.
cases in civil
You're
court.
looking to
fighting that very
protect them
thing.
from cutting when they go after the cuticles and, clipping the nails too short or taking the peanut grinder to the hill too hard. I don't know what they do in there, but they do stuff.
I can tell you.
But it's hilarious. I'm just
Holly, well, we won't let Holly have to give us a full description of all the beautification techniques necessary.
The
I'm
number
good.
one thing you want is somebody who, especially in nails, who is clean. You want them to be clean, and you want your nails to be clean. And I think that's the number one
Sounds
thing.
good.
And
I'm
because
just
talent is amazing, and you find someone with the talent and they know how to keep a standard in their salon, you're winning. And women don't cheat on their cosmetology people. They don't cheat on their hair therapist, whatever. They don't cheat on their nail girl. Like women just, men too. They go to their barber and they go to the same one.
My barber is me every couple weeks. But I'm just picturing right now, like the incoming wave of new reps and new senators. And you're like, all you freshmen, enjoy your time here. But one thing you're not allowed to touch until you got some seniority is cosmetology. That's
for the
jungle.
big dogs.
That's the rice fields.
That's the jungle. That's the jungle. You got to make sure you've been down the trail once or twice before you tackle this one.
You got to turn on CCR, Fortunate Son, before you go into that water.
Oh yeah. Senator, I hope you'll reach out if I can assist you in any way and get.
Thanks, Holly. If I need some technical advice, I'm going to call you.
Yeah, and you've got an open invitation here anytime.
Thank you guys. It's been most enjoyable.
Is there anything else coming up that we got to be prepared for in this next session? I mean, I know that you're that's a big deal that you're on this vice chair of this committee, and I want to talk to you again because I know after this last election, SB 54, I know the Senate is probably not going to bring a bill up. It's a whole probably half-hour discussion that we can have another day, I hope. But there's so much at session. Every time you guys go into session, you've been working on bills since you've been out of session.
Yeah, we have. And you bring up something that I think people can follow, and that is election security and integrity is a high priority. And when you get the verification that 2 votes slipped in from people who are deceased, that's a concern.
Right.
And that's I don't want to take any more time because we're probably way over your time anyway, but that's a topic for maybe another line of discussion. Election integrity and security is something that's utmost on our minds, and we want to make sure that we, one, have the resources, and that we make sure that the methods are correct,
Right.
that we can be secure in our election process. The SB 54 discussion is really apart from that even. And you know, they're around elections, but the first thing, I think the first glaring thing in front of us is making sure election integrity is there and works.
Yeah, you
Very
don't
good.
have anything if you don't have that. I mean, none of it
Right.
happens. Senator,
That's very concerning to
It
me.
is. Senator, real quick, can you plug for us where people can go to website wise or whatever?
Oh,
if they
great.
want to send
Look,
you a nasty message about closing down their barber school.
first of all, let me say that if they go to and just Google Utah legislature, they can build their own tracking system if they want to in that website for bills. You can follow where they are. You can pick certain bills, certain subjects. It's very interactive and it's very, very well done. We actually, as legislators, use it as well, and it's
Oh.
open to the public. Just go on there. You can build your own tracking list and just pop it up and look and say, "Oh, that bill is in committee." And you can pop on and listen to the committee. You can listen to the floor debate. All of those bills are tracked. Really cool. Other than that, if you need to get a hold of me during session and you've got something very lengthy that you'd like to describe, the best way is just use my legislative email. We do have a little additional help during the session with college interns that are assigned to us that help go through those and keep us aware of those. That's kind of the first line. If it's something really quick and really pending, shoot me a text. I only have one cell phone. I use it for legislative, personal, business, everything else. If you send me a text, there's two things that even on an email need to be included. One is your name and where you live, where you reside. I need to know that you're a constituent because
Or who to
you'd be
send it to.
amazed. You send those emails to ssandal@le.utah.gov. It's posted on the legislature website. If you just go there, my phone number is posted there as well, and people can contact me that way. And I'm happy to respond as quickly as I can.
Perfect.
Senator, we had a guest two months ago for Amplify USA, which is it's a app where I can track your stuff. It's got a lot of elected officials.
Yeah,
and
it's
pretty cool. And I
Cool.
mean, I along with what the state is doing on their website, which is pretty cool, and to be able to tune into your committees if you don't feel like going up to the Capitol, I love that. But during session, it's so crazy that you can see them online. I can't.
Yeah,
think
one of the silver
enough-
linings of COVID was we moved to virtual.
right?
And that allows virtual participation in committee meetings and people to be able to see and not just listen in. So yeah, great.
that works out great.
You are a phenomenal representative
Yeah,
for Tooele County. We're grateful that I mean, as far as the party's concerned, you do answer your text messages, you do answer your email, and you're very engaged. So I want you to know that I appreciate your hard work.
And also, you tend to have a good voting record, so I'm pleased with that as well.
Well, thank
Voting
you.
record that you're not my senator. I unfortunately have a different senator, but I like to feel like I'm living vicariously through Holly, having you as a
Reach
senator.
out to me whenever.
You're amazing.
Just put it down who you are and where you live, and we'll take care of you.
Perfect. All right.
Please say hello to your beautiful wife for me.
Thank
really
you. That's very
appreciate
kind.
both of you, and I look forward to seeing you at the upcoming convention that I think we're going to have in probably April, around late April. They just told
Well,
me the
hopefully
state
I see you.
convention.
Holly, you got to come to the Capitol. You
I
got to
would
come
love
at
to.
least once or twice. I'll see you up there.
Excellent. On the cosmetology day, I want to be in your committee and just see who shows up and see if I need to bring some folks who could assist you.
I've still got an old Kevlar. I could pop that on and come
I
in.
promise.
Cosmetology
Appreciate it.
Education against the actual cosmetologist, and I think they're gonna love this.
That's a hand grenade day right there. That's when
Oh,
it gets
you guys, you're the best.
Invite me
Yeah,
anytime.
You're so much fun.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. That's Senator Scott Sandel. He's serving Utah now for going on 10 years, you said?
Going on 11.
This year is 11 years. So
this year's 11.
Let's thank him for his time. Reach out to him if you have any comments, questions, thoughts. Very easy conversation. And I do enjoy when I talk with a legislature who is intelligent. That makes it a lot easier.
Well, and somebody that you can talk to about, I disagreed with your vote, and yet your perspective shines light on mine, and we share this conversation. Yeah. And you may think about what I said. I'm certainly thinking about what you said, and that's what government is. You represent me, and you're listening, and that's exactly, you're representing a lot of people, and you're listening. So I really appreciate that, and thank you for being on the show, sir.
Yep. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you soon.
Yes,
excellent.
sir.
Call me anytime if you want me up to the Capitol, because I would love to go if I was able to hang out with you.
Come do it. You can hang out on the floor.
Awesome.
All right. You have a good night, sir. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Are you shutting off the show?
Yeah, we'll shut it off.
Well, we're going to say goodbye.
We'll just say goodbye to everyone. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for bearing with us while it was just me and Holly chatting till we got the good senator on. We're always grateful when the legislatures come on. We're reaching out to more of them. Eventually, I would like to have a chat with every legislator on both sides of the house and everything. Just see where they're at and what's going on. There's different priorities. I understand that the people in the urban areas have different priorities than I may find myself, and usually I can find understanding on why they have that, whether I agree with them or not.
I think it's interesting that, I mean, we've talked about this on the show a few times with different people, but I think the whole energy thing is really that's kind of cool. That's
the future.
That we are kind of putting the brakes on this fear factor of climate change and this unsustainable electric, with the battery and the wind and the solar, and we're going back to logic. I mean, we've been looking for logic for a decade at least, because this has just been a fast track down money pit and fear.
Well, it boiled to a head because, like you said, the 60s and 70s and 80s, including the president at the time's daughter, Ronald Reagan's daughter, came out and didn't want nuclear energy, didn't want it. All the movie stars, everyone. So that's kind of why we gave into them.
But that's fear because of Chernobyl, right?
Yes. Well, but.
Which is Russia. It's not also, like the United States and their regulations.
Also in the 70s, they opened up China, and China slowly grew into a major cheap manufacturer for us. And that cheap manufacturing centers on electricity. So it's not just the automobile. If you remember when you were a kid, how many devices did you have plugged into your room when you were a kid? I had maybe a clock radio, maybe a stereo.
Television, a stereo.
I didn't have a television, but there might have been two or three things. How many things do you have plugged in now?
It's insane now.
I mean, you
need one of those strips.
Just in this room we're in right now, I've got 3 computers plugged in. I've got an Xbox plugged in. I've got sound mixer. And then in my bedroom, I've got a TV and cell phone and everything. So we're boiling to a head where more electricity is needed. It is a priority. We can't live without it. So we need to step into where, and I'm not saying I want to completely eliminate the renewables, but they're not functioning. I think they're good to have as a holy cow backup in a weird moment, but they can't be the primary. And nuclear is, as far as I know, believe me, I don't. If he says he knows little about nuclear, I know just enough that I can listen to him talk about it, and I still am lost. So,
Yeah,
but that's something we need to move to. And the way we burn coal nowadays is very clean. One of the ways they achieve that is started crushing the coal, so the coal gets more saturated with oxygen, which allows it to burn more completely. So there's less soot that's traveling out.
I think what you're saying too is it's not like a household that has each rooftop has so many electrical devices. It's like every human being requires so much electricity.
Good heck.
And when governments are making literal laws and regulations to go fully electric, when they can't even run the grid they're on right now, like California, it's just crazy.
And believe me, I'm one of those guys who forever hated the idea of electric cars. I think it is the future. We almost can't avoid it, and we're not going to be able to not avoid it because they want to do away with internal combustion.
Yeah,
the reason we can't avoid it is because the electric cars are faster. They're more powerful.
Yeah, but they're not sustainable. Like you can't.
That's the question. So
300 miles and then
a new
you're done?
item needs to be invented in the middle of that. But I imagine when they make a NASCAR electric car race, NASCAR will disappear because the
electric car racing.
The electric cars are so much faster, so much more capable. You can do more with them.
I watched a Kia. I think I told you this at my racetrack, Town Motorsports campus.
Is it Leafs?
Off the line. No, that's Nissan. This was their new SUV, and this was a couple years ago. I watched it off the line, literally beat Ferrari, Lamborghini, and it ended up losing at the very last second to a Bugatti. But
the Bugatti took forever to get there.
So I couldn't believe what I was watching, and I was like, "This is your electric car." Now, is it logical if you want to drive to St. George? I mean, until we get our grid in place and you get places to charge. And again, I don't have an interest in buying an EV. It just doesn't appeal to me. And I think a lot of companies have pulled back their desire to build EVs and go back because it's not, how long does your engine last? Your battery. And then what do you do with it when it's dead?
I don't know.
And how much is it? You're basically buying a new car when it needs to be replaced.
All that is 100% true. I just think
these are legit questions I have. Do you know?
We're going to see, they're going to step in because of what they can do. Hopefully it's a hybrid system that shows up, like a haul pack.
Oh, like what the Toyota that used to be a hybrid.
Up at the mine, those great big dump trucks.
Oh yeah.
Those are diesel electrics.
Yeah.
So the diesel runs a generator,
hybrid,
but the diesel literally can't transfer the power to the wheels by itself. It's just too much torque demanded.
That's a huge truck too.
So they got to use electric motors to transfer that. So imagine what they can build, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Tesla, of course, is the most advanced and the one that's the top of the line. And it's spearheading it. And when those
that T on there now doesn't sound for Tesla, it sounds for Trump because Elon has come out and done a 360. So all those people who bought Teslas because it was they're lefties like that, now they got to wear the big T everywhere they go. But you can update the Tesla, remotely, and then you've got a whole new Tesla.
There's a lot of stuff that's done.
Amazing.
I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I do know that electricity is going to show up to that party just because of its capabilities as a person who works with electricity at work all day. It's just the torque delivery on electricity is
Oh, they're amazing
phenomenal.
fast. My friend has a Ford, great big, huge Super Duty Ford. It's so nice. It's so nice. I have a Nissan. Mine's very nice as well, a Titan. Off the line, not even close. I couldn't catch her if I had a super,
She got the electric or the
Yeah.
diesel?
an
Oh,
electric,
So she's got
big
that
Super Duty Ford.
a Super Duty
Or what's it called? The F-150 or
the Lightning. Yes.
but it's gorgeous royal blue, and I couldn't believe how fast she got from 0 to
It's-
60. It was like I
It's
was in the
insane.
dust. And again, it's a commuter car for her and all of that, but we have chargers at the racetrack. So she could go to work and charge it all day while she's working, and then she's got her charger at home. But for people that don't
Or if you
have
have
access to a charger during the day,
or if you have an abnormal drive that you do, gasoline is still the most optimal, or diesel, whatever, an internal combustion.
and
Still,
technically they need to figure out how to make charging quicker
yes,
and how
they
to add
do.
more. And actually, we've talked about this also.
And how to add
Um,
life to the batteries.
Right. And we have to figure out, I keep thinking of David Pine, how to protect our grid,
Yeah.
because not just from an EMP, but from
Solar flare.
a solar flare,
CME.
or people who are trying to do hackers who want to do that through our computer system and AI and all of this.
I wonder.
Like, we need to get that figured out before we go demanding
I
everyone goes
wonder
on the grid.
what kind of protections Elon has put into the Tesla.
I don't know,
That's crazy.
but I assume he's done something. I mean,
Yeah. It is hotter than sin in
it's
here.
so hot. Is it all the lights?
I don't know. Maybe the heater's turned on. Anyways, that's the show, everyone.
Next week, we are working on having a special guest out of Florida.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do a show? When's Christmas?
Christmas is on the 25th. Like
No,
every
and
year.
what's the day of the week?
I don't know.
You're hilarious. I
Oh,
don't.
happy Friday the 13th, everyone. I hope that all the spooky fun stuff that happens on Friday the 13th was happy spooky for you and not bad spooky.
We've got the 27th is a Friday.
Sharon, thanks for joining us. Sherry, Michael, great idea. That could have been on any number of things, and it was good to finally have met you.
Oh yeah, and Jared went to. I had to go to a central committee meeting with
Yeah.
our county, and I find out that he finally met my husband
Yeah.
when he was watching my child perform at a school
Yeah.
chorus, and his family too.
Yeah,
So that
well,
was cool.
I try to show up for family member stuff. Chris, I know that's probably not the answer you wanted to hear on the vape thing, and I recognize that.
Agree with you fully, Chris.
And in my heart of hearts, I'm a crazy libertarian. I agree with you as well.
I just think
But
that,
that
it's
being
got to
said,
be.
I would have rather have them, if the vape companies are targeting kids, to figure that out and punish the people that are doing wrong, and not put a blanket ban on
How?
everyone.
That's the thing. How are they targeting kids other than
That's the
making
question.
the flavors enjoyable, which
Figure it out.
adults like? So they
Hey,
can't advertise
trust me.
on any print media. They can't do commercials. They can't even do radio ads.
trust me. Yeah, I agree with you.
So it's like, wait a minute, you're going to accuse these companies of advertising to kids. They have a warning label, as my research showed me. They have a warning
no one
label.
under 21 is allowed.
21. Whereas cigarettes used to be 19 to
Yep.
purchase, 18 to have in possession.
Yeah, so I don't know how this is going to shake down. Again, go to our Utah legislator page. Just, you can go right to Scott Sandel.
And I think it's too late to take it off. I really think that they can't pull it back. And I also think this bill went through with very little argument, because
And it
was kind of quick and
it was
end
super
of
quiet,
session.
which that part I don't like. I don't like it when a law that affects people and affects businesses goes through quietly. I
But
don't
be
like
fair,
that.
they have all their stuff on the legislative page. Any of us could have
I
heard
know,
about it
but-
and learned about it.
I know, but
I don't think they meant it to be secret. I just
I
don't
don't-
think it.
I agree, but it is what it is. I hope that I'm glad that I quit vaping. Again, I'm only 3 days
Yeah,
out.
3
though.
days, dude.
Dude, I ain't really quit yet. Right now, I'm
Jonesing.
freaking jonesing. Like, I can't hold still lately. It is tough. And
I imagine they
I'm
say
chewing the
nicotine
gum
is.
and I'm sucking on this wooden
This
tube.
is a fume, right? Which it's designed to give you the feeling like you're vaping, but it's just air
Well, it's yeah.
and with a flavoring.
It doesn't work, and the flavoring doesn't even
But
apply.
this is
It's-
this legal to sell in Utah? Because a flavored vape is what the law states is banned. Even it doesn't even say if it has nicotine
it's
in it or not.
It's not electric. It's like you don't plug it in. It's a straw,
I could get you one of these for free.
and it doesn't work.
Guys,
so I've got gum.
quitting nicotine is probably, they say, like quitting heroin. The
They say
brain
nicotine's
is
the most
so addicted to
the
it.
most addictive substance on earth is what they say. I don't know. It's tough. But anyways,
Guys,
everyone have a wonderful weekend.
And I just want to
Yep.
thank you guys for tuning in and giving us
Yes.
your time tonight. We went long, but I think that we had a really great show.
No, that was a good one. I enjoy
Went by fast.
we're lucky to have the legislatures that we have. We're Utah, we're rather blessed. Our Democrats in Utah are logical. That takes a lot to drink in.
It was a Democrat that ran this bill.
Yeah. But I mean, our Democrats in Utah tend to be more fiscally minded than I mean, imagine you could be held hostage in California.
Oh my goodness. The Democrats in California, you're right. The Democrats in Utah are probably totally different in as far as conservatism goes and moderate, and they're still progressive.
Well, not even that.
But they're not crazy.
They're not psychos. Anyways, you guys.
I guess that's a relative idea. What that is.
Maybe our Republicans
We love
are
you
psychos
guys.
to psychos. If your hair's green,
And check out KMMU. Go on their website and look at other shows available. We've got some amazing shows on the Main Street Media.
100%.
And go in and support them. And if you can, give us a follow and subscribe on YouTube, or go on to the podcast and wherever you get your podcasts. And please, give us some nice stars and share it with a friend if there's something. And if you want to contact us, Facebook is probably the best way, through Messenger or even on the page. We read everything. YouTube as well. And let us know if there's somebody. Yes, Rumble. And if there's somebody you want us to invite on, or if you have a recommendation, or someone that you would like us to invite, just reach out to us, because we are not just political head trauma. We also like to get to know what's going on with our fellow neighbors and citizens.
Yep. Everyone have a good weekend.